Good evening and welcome to November 8th, 2018 Planning Board. I'm going to change the schedule around a little bit. Sorry, Jack.
That's okay. I figured you would.
Art has a discussion for construction requirements for road construction on Worley Hill in order to comply with the requirements for variance granted by the ZBA for William and Kristen Weiss, whatever, to construct a single-family house, which I don't think will take very long. So, rather than making Art wait all night like he has several nights.
Yeah, bring my share. Okay.
It all pays the same though, whether they're marching or fighting, doesn't it?
What's that?
Pays the same whether you're marching or fighting, doesn't it?
Okay. So
No comment. Okay.
I have some plans for you. Before the game, let's see it close.
Thanks.
I think they just,
See what they're.
they said go forward. They gave it to us to see what we could do.
Yeah, we had the driveway.
So anyway,
Not too long.
everybody's familiar with where this is,
Yep,
pretty much. Has anybody walked it?
not yet.
I have pictures.
We looked at this a couple years ago, I think,
For the first section.
for the first section, for the other.
For down here, for this house?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. And you approved it, or you just looked at it, or, I don't know.
We don't approve, we recommend to the selectmen.
Recommend, okay.
We recommended and the selectmen ignored our recommendation.
Pardon?
We made a recommendation and the selectmen ignored our recommendation.
Okay.
Before me, then.
Yeah, it was before you.
Can I ask what that recommendation was? Do you remember?
I don't remember all of it, but I remember
Okay.
part of it was that the structural section would be the same as the road section in the roadway.
Prior to
The
that?
cross section would be the same as the road cross section. That was part of our,
Okay.
I don't remember all of it.
I don't know what that means, but whatever.
Pardon me?
I don't know what that means.
I mean the depth of the,
Prior to
depth of the
that?
bank run gravels and
Yeah, okay.
that was, should be the same as the road
Well,
standards. But
I would propose that too. Anyway, with this. I mean, so anyway.
Anyway.
Okay, so this is where the other, what was approved, access to the houses. So what we'd like to do is improve Worsley Road access to get to this lot. One
So you're
second.
going almost 1,400 feet further?
Correct. Get to it. So, instead, yeah, it's 13, yeah, say 1,400.
What is it start going downhill? I mean, Worley.
There is,
It's pretty flat
there-
across through there.
this is, there's no grade issues all the way. I'm gonna show you some pictures.
Okay.
I was there today, I said,
Art, what's the condition of the road between Colby and,
Well, this is that part that we walked this,
right, but what's the condition of that road? That is to
well,
say,
it's paved up to, I don't know how far.
it's paved?
Yeah,
Worthley's paved to a point, and then it's gravel to this house. It's not that, this gravel part's not that.
And is that gravel class 5?
no.
No.
The pavement's class 5 road, the gravel's driveway, class 6.
Class six,
The
yeah.
gravel's an access to the lot.
Classic road.
It's a driveway. It's built to driveway standards that the fire department normally,
And how long is that? From the paved road to the end?
300 feet, I'm guessing, I don't know.
Okay. Thank you.
So, we're proposing a similar construction, 18-foot width travelway, excuse me, to accommodate what the fire department normally wants for most driveways. I have a driveway that was approved, a short driveway to a house, a single house, it was on a private road, but it's 18 feet wide with a turnaround. And that's what was approved by the fire department previous to this. I can go through, I can go run this all wide if that's something.
Are you gonna be able to build a turnout? Per the driveway
There's some,
standards?
pardon?
The driveway standards say that all driveways exceeding 800 feet in length shall have a turnout constructed approximately the midpoint of the driveway. And continue approximately every 400 feet along the entire length of the driveway?
How wide did it say? What's the turnout? How wide?
Well, I don't know if it says right here where I'm reading, but I know it's enough to pull off so the ambulance and fire truck can
Or
pass
one
each
truck
other.
can pass each other if they're gonna do shuttling, that's
Well, I'm
it.
telling, I believe we can build this 18 feet wide.
Yeah.
So it'll be easy to put another 2 or 3 feet in certain areas along this road. There are some narrow areas between the walls. But anyway, let me just give you a visual on what's going on with this road. So this is where I started. There's my car at the beginning, right here. So my car was parked right there.
Mhm.
So that's the beginning of the road.
Okay.
Okay. I started taking a video. I said, "Yeah, I'm not doing a video." Okay, so this is the next. So the road is like some of the roads are like a trough where there's water catching out because it's low. So obviously we're gonna bring this up higher.
Looks like a skidder. Skidder's been driving down it. It looks like.
What's that?
Looks like a skidder has been driving down it.
Yeah. Well, it has.
Yeah.
Probably because they did this. They logged that piece. Houses on. So this is going a little further. Actually, this picture shows it all the way. See the spot there? This next picture shows it
Okay, I see what you
closer.
mean. Yep.
And then there's some ledge in the middle of it. So the ledge has to be removed and a large boulder. There's like some ledge there and a large boulder.
But it looks like it's wide enough there, you could make a turnout too,
Yeah.
right there.
Looks like
That's
it's
one spot.
Looks like it was
That's
off the
probably-
landing.
That's probably somewhere in here. And actually, even in here, there's some wide spots. There are some narrow spots, though. Let's see how it goes.
Art, what about all these other lots here? Are there houses on them?
They have frontage on, what's the name of the road over there?
Guys Lane,
Yeah, yes,
they're all
They-
Guys Lane.
They have frontage on a Class 5?
Yeah,
yes.
they're all built on.
They all have an address in Guys Lane. Okay.
And there's a house on this lot?
Yes,
This,
right at the beginning,
right here?
right there. So this is approaching.
What's
the lot.
beyond here for development?
Nothing. Large lots, I believe. I haven't really looked. So
But-
this is, here's the property line, and then we can do a turnaround.
Why shouldn't this be a Class 5 road, including the 300 feet of driveway? I mean, we're starting to get a very lengthy...
Why shouldn't it?
Yeah.
Because you'd be, well, it doesn't have to be because it's to a single lot. Here, I'll go over here.
Yeah, but that was the
It shouldn't be-
argument, that was the argument for the 300 feet. Now it's 1,700 feet.
Well, it's to a single lot, and he'd be building a road. So the abutter would get a Class 5 road in front of his house. I mean, that's,
It's not for a subdivision.
Why does
it's
it-
to allow them to build on
yeah,
an
why does it
existing
need
lot.
to be a Class 5, I guess? You're saying why he does it, I'm saying, why do you think it has to be?
Well, he's got a variance, so it doesn't have to be.
Is a variance for what?
For doing this?
Yeah, but
Yeah, we gotta
we're
build.
the one who has to determine what the road is. The
No.
variance is only
No.
for the access.
What-
We
Would
make,
give a
we make, we
recommendation.
make a recommendation to the selectmen of how the Class 6 portion is upgraded.
Will there be any other development here?
I have no idea, but if it is, then they're gonna have to comply with the regulations, if there's more development.
I would hope there isn't, because a driveway can only handle, a shared driveway can only be on 2 lots. And this is shared, in my opinion. It's acting as a shared driveway.
But it's
But
not a
it's
driveway in the
class-
traditional
It's
sense.
a Class 6 road, but it's a shared access, it's a shared access built to road, to driveway standards.
Well, yeah, but then you'd have to go to 22 feet, I mean, and paved and the whole 9 yards.
No.
And actually, there's only one culvert crossing here.
Class 5 road does not have to be paved. Am I correct?
No,
I thought we just decided that.
no, we didn't take pavement out,
I thought it was at our option.
not pavement.
They can ask for a waiver.
Yeah,
Yes.
okay. And
There
that can be
haven't been any-
granted, so it doesn't
There's
have
never
to be
been any
paved.
approved.
True. Doesn't it? The regulations specify pavement, but it can be waived, yes.
It's on its own, it's in subdivision, yes.
Let's back up a little bit. I think I need to see this. I need to walk it.
Okay.
Unfortunately, it gets dark at 4:30.
But it gets light early.
I go to work early.
How early?
Shortly after it's getting late, I'm going down the road, put it that
Okay.
way.
Well, there's Saturday and Sunday.
And I gotta work this Saturday.
There's
We can meet
Sunday.
out
We
there
got
Sunday.
Sunday.
I'll meet you out there Sunday morning.
Okay.
I think it's a pretty easy build, actually, but you'll see it. You gotta see it. I showed you pictures.
What time Sunday?
I didn't think you were gonna prove anything tonight. It was a good discussion.
What time Sunday, Craig?
It's up to you two, up to you three.
What, I can't Sunday, I'll walk it tomorrow.
8,
8?
8?
8:30,
It's Sunday.
9:30.
9:30?
How about 10?
10 it is.
He's, the whole day's gone by
Sold.
then.
Sold. I go to church Saturday nights.
Usually don't bring cookies when we do sidewalks on a Saturday morning.
Well, you should have tried doing it.
And a full breakfast on Sunday?
Yeah. I take my coffee black.
Okay.
We'll look at it tomorrow.
Okay, so, all right, so you need to see it first.
Yeah, I'm thinking sedimentate, road
Yeah, no,
control,
it's fine.
cross culverts, turnouts, all those things.
Yep, no problem.
So you get a wheel, bring a wheel.
Bring a wheel.
To measure.
Well, you wanna design the road, you're trying to design it?
No. Approximate.
I don't have a wheel.
You don't
I'm
have
a
a wheel?
surveyor. I don't-
Surveyors don't have wheels.
I'll bring a wheel.
We have 200-foot tapes with the ends broken off.
Yeah. And the other guy not holding the right place.
Bring your realtor, bring your realtor. Realtor stuff.
So we want to continue this till the 15th, well, we have a site walk the 10th, no, not the 10th, the 11th at 10, and continue this till the 15th?
So moved.
Second.
All in
Okay.
favor?
Aye.
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 Okay, I'm gonna have to have somebody else here, but I won't be here
Sunday or Thursday?
Thursday. I'm heading west. But,
Jeez.
so we gotta decide, so I'm hoping we can do some of this. Maybe I'll send somebody here. Let's
So you're
see.
gonna do it next
Thursday?
week, the 15th?
Oh, Thursday I will have a guy here, so I'll fill him in. But,
I think we can make most of our recommendations Sunday.
I know about, oh, Sunday, okay, good.
Yeah.
I would hope we could
If we
do
can,
that.
if we can get that all straightened out, then it's a matter of
I won't be here.
how do we
I gotta teach.
put it on a piece of paper,
Right.
what's gonna get done.
I got a class to teach.
And how do we word our
I
recommendations?
mean, I think whatever it's built here should be monitored by somebody.
Yes,
That's a no-brainer.
yeah. And I think that whatever's built in the road right-of-way should be structurally to the road specifications with the bank run gravel, so forth.
Mhm. I mean, I'd like to not do a whole design.
Yeah, I don't
but
mind.
I'd like to build it and have somebody go in, grub it out, take care of the ledge. Start bringing in the material on a recommendation of whoever.
Have Jeff Quirk from Keach Nordstrom inspect it once in a while.
Yeah. Subgrade what they put down for the foot and finish.
Well,
I think that's
The question is, it says Worthley Road. Is this a class 6 town road?
Yes.
Yes.
Then I would say you better get the road agent involved. He has say on some of this where it's good class 6 road.
That's true. We should get a hold of
And it's- he's
Benji and the fire
statutorily
department.
bound
Benji's walked it.
Yeah.
I walked it with
So,
him.
I mean, I'd have him get involved in the loop.
Benji has to make recommendations. Benji
Yep.
and the fire department should be making recommendations to us because they don't recommend to the selectmen, we do.
Yeah.
So Chip, first thing Tuesday, get a hold of Benji.
Or if you're around tomorrow,
What's that?
see if you can grab Benji tomorrow.
See if I can,
Yeah, I can shoot out some emails tomorrow.
oh, to tell him,
Yeah, just,
that's, I've already contacted him.
you have, okay, you've already
You
had a
can't.
conversation with him.
If
okay.
you want information from him, I guess, yeah, Greg will.
I'll shoot him and, what's his name, Chief Zena, an email tomorrow.
Okay,
So, okay.
we're good. See you Sunday.
See
What
you
time?
Sunday,
10.
10 o'clock, black.
I'll be there tomorrow at 8.
I won't. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Al.
Second item on the agenda
Art, do you
is
want these back?
CIP. I assume with all these people, it's gonna take a while to talk about Riverdale. I'm assuming that was the population of CIP.
We'll do the Riverdale first. I mean, it's gonna be a while.
How long is it gonna, how long do you think it's gonna take?
As far as if you guys say, yeah, we're done.
It's not gonna take a lot of time.
Okay. Okay, we'll do the Riverdale, we'll do reverse order. Riverdale's next. Whoever wants to make the,
I didn't want to spend 3 hours here. I really don't.
oh, come on, it's fun. Sit back, enjoy yourself. We have a water fountain.
Well, for the record, I'm Mike Haas of 2 Depot Street, and we're here to present the findings of the Riverdale Overlay Subcommittee to you, the Planning Board. Subcommittee was Dave Nelson, our chairman, Neela was our vice chair, I was the secretary, and other members were Sheila Cleveland and Kevin LaFave. And we have here a one-page document of the proposed wording of the ordinance. If you'd like to put in. And there's a map here. We've colorized the tax map on the town website just so you can get a picture of where it is to go along with the wording. I emailed these 2 things to Chip on Monday, but I didn't get a read receipt, so I gathered maybe he's not in the office this
No, he's
week.
on vacation until Tuesday.
I'm digesting heavily. In case you're wondering what that noise is you're hearing, it's grinding. So basically, right now, the way I understand, if I got this right, right now, the permitted uses are single-family dwellings, multifamily dwellings, if it's contained in an existing structure, yabba dabba do. Like commercial uses, you're proposing only single-family dwellings.
Right, but we're not proposing to change what's already there. We know there are some multifamily units within the boundaries.
So if you're gonna do a subdivision, you gotta get a special exception for what?
Well, I borrowed that language from one or both of the other overlays. I think Clinton Grove, but I guess the idea is that if you're taking a single lot and turning it into multiple dwellings on the same lot, that could be construed as a multifamily.
Well, if you're gonna do a subdivision, no. If you're gonna do a subdivision, you create a separate lot, you have a single-family house on a separate lot. And I assume that 3.5 was taken from the Mount Dearborn, which is A4, very similar in wording.
Probably, yeah.
But the Mount Dearborn has the restriction, you gotta be 800 feet, whatever the distance is from the road. 1,200 feet, thank you. And you don't have any special setbacks, so what are you getting a special exception from, or for?
I assume that it's to make sure that it's only a single-family dwelling.
You need a special exception to do something that's
But
allowed?
if it's allowed, then you need a special exception.
To make sure that only that is allowed, only that is being done, and it's not a condominium subdivision, or it's not a multifamily subdivision.
If it's not allowed, it's not allowed. You don't need a special exception to do something that's allowed. You would need a variance to do something that's not allowed.
In other words, 30C35 is unnecessary?
I believe so.
3.1, single-family, and 3.2.
I think it is, yes, unless, if that's what you're trying to do, is to make sure you're only getting single-family dwellings, yes, it's unnecessary. Because you're only gonna be able to do what's permitted.
How does this align with the AHU housing the state allows? ADU, accessory dwelling unit.
That's a single-family dwelling,
Yes.
so that would be allowed. I mean, we use that language throughout the
Okay.
zoning ordinance, so,
Clarifying that.
right. A single-family dwelling with an accessory apartment is not a multifamily dwelling, not a multifamily dwelling. And that's the state law. So you think we can eliminate 3.5?
Yes, I don't think you're getting a special exception for. The special exception is usually like, single-family dwellings are permitted.
Provided A, B, C, and D.
Rooming houses, cluster housing, condominiums, multifamily dwellings would be allowed with a special exception. Then you need a special exception to do that. But you don't have anything you need a special exception to do. No, I don't think 3.5 is necessary.
Now, this kind of expands on the village district, right? This overlay is bigger than the village district, or is it exactly the same as the village?
That's correct. The village district, roughly speaking, is here, and it starts here and goes up River Road a bit, and then it completes some of these lots, but some of the properties on Depot Street and all of this.
So everything across the river is not in the village district?
That's correct, not at the moment.
Another thing you may end up doing, or that could happen, when you go into the village district, the lot size is 10,000 square feet. It's not 2 acres anymore. Or whatever, 5 acres or any other acreage.
Would that change under this?
Yeah, because
Yeah.
the part that's not in the village district,
Would not be subject to the village district requirements?
right, you're kind of creating an overlay of a zone partially, and then partially not.
No,
Oh, I'm sorry, I misunderstood. You're not making the village district bigger, you're establishing an overlay district that is bigger than the village district.
correct.
Essentially,
Yes.
yeah.
Okay.
And so there are many things that might be allowed or prohibited in the village district, which wouldn't change. But with respect to the non-village district part of the overlay, these rules would supersede those in effect in that district. So a single-family house over here
Right.
might have to be on 2 acres, whereas over here, it could be on 10,000 square feet.
Right.
But in neither case could you have in either location, could you have commercial development, rooming houses, cluster houses, et cetera.
We've got commercially zoned land in that same overlay district, though.
We got residential land, we got commercial land, we got rural ag land. In this. Have the owners of these of these lots been talked to?
Some of them, not all of them.
I have a pretty good idea of one of them that wasn't, but, or 2 maybe.
Well, to be honest, too, we hadn't thought to make a concerted effort to approach all of the neighbors until we made our presentation to the subcommittee presentation tonight. Because if we end up, say, striking 3.5 from this, we want to make sure we're presenting the ordinance as it would be on the ballot to the neighbors.
How, we have some questions.
Sure, please.
How did you guys determine the limits of your historic overlay district here? What criteria did you use?
This would have to refer to our chairman, Dave, and Kevin, but as longtime residents, the idea here was to incorporate what was historically, not by any zoning ordinance definition, but historically the Weare part of Riverdale Village. Or at least to incorporate as much of that without making, say, unreasonable extension. For instance, there's an old cemetery that's a lot farther up River Road, like a mile or so. We had no intention of trying to include that. That's just overreaching.
The reason I asked that is it seems that some of the land in here, I don't think in the past had any activity or any
She will know.
residences on it.
I mean,
The old schoolhouse is up there.
the old schoolhouse is there plus the mill. I would someday like to see a big grain sign about the mill. That was very eventful event.
Where's the mill?
The mill it was the old site of the old oil mill.
What, which lot?
130. I have many pictures of
Okay.
the mill from the 1700s on,
Okay,
and it was the start of the Pine Tree Riot, if you know your history. That's where it all started, was in Riverdale.
And then over by 122, that's the old train depot area.
Yeah.
Yes. We got the train depot history, the mill site,
And
and the
this is the
schoolhouse.
railroad track. The railroad bed has a defined line.
Yep, I see that.
Yep.
It was the original site of oil mill. Flaxseed and whatever else you wanted.
But that's all in the current, that's mostly or all in the current village district?
No, not neither one of those, Craig. 130 and 122 are not.
Okay.
Pretty sure.
What's that
I know
arrow,
it's-
what's that arrow by the 130 that points to the intersection of Riverdale and River? Am I,
I don't remember. Maybe it's-
I think that's what 130 is. 130 is on that corner, the inside of the corner,
Yeah.
in the,
looks like 130 to me is, it would be between the river, between Scottibook River, between Riverdale Road and River Road. In that,
What was a schoolhouse?
I think it's pointing that little square there, Craig, right?
You talking about this?
yeah, isn't that arrow
Gotta be close to the dam.
right there? Isn't that
And on the other side
130?
of the river, which would be like, I think it's.
No, I thought 130 was the larger lot.
Oh, it could be.
I don't think it is.
Joe DeSalt's place.
That's not very clear.
No, the larger lot's 206.
The dam.
Just what I'm saying, that's what they're talking, you think in the
I should have
130
printed up my
across.
1700
On
line.
your
I
side.
think 130, they're all on the east side of the river.
No, 130
No,
is not.
130 is on the west side.
Looks like 206 is on the west side.
No, we're on the east side.
206 is on the west side, too.
407 is on the
Where,
east side.
there's no property line between 206 goes the whole way to the road, right?
That's the number line site.
Either way, let's back up. Oil mill is beside the river on Riverdale Road on the west side of the river. Is that true? No matter what lot number it's on, that's
Yes.
where it is on the ground. Okay.
Where the mill used to be. But the road is.
Where the numbers 130 are, whether it's lot 130 or not.
Whether
where
they-
the numbers-
correct,
What
yeah.
that number is, that's.
Yeah.
Okay.
And Joe, the
Well, we're-
schoolhouse, the building.
It doesn't matter where the lot
schoolhouse,
is. It just
what
matters where the
lot?
building is.
215,
201.
201, I don't know.
Schoolhouse is on that corner.
It's right
Okay.
there on the, where the new oil mill road is, well, I call it new, the schoolhouse is right there. There was a schoolhouse on our side of the river also,
Okay.
years ago.
Schoolhouse was where?
At 201.
Okay, I assumed that. What's at 199
What the hell is that?
on up Riverdale?
That's, Pete Mather Blanchett's old house.
On the little .17 acre lot?
That's Dawson.
Oh, 190, that's a small lot that was subdivided off of 198 way back when.
Nothing,
Nothing
no,
significant
no,
on
no
199.
cemetery, church, or anything?
No, 199 is nothing significant on it.
Okay.
198 is a very old homestead of Pete Mather Blanchett.
So at one time, 198 was actually, had 199 in it, and 198 was 120.
Yes.
They were all at one point kind of rolled in.
They subdivided it off to the Loverings at one point in time.
My issue is the
You were
Pine
in the
Tree
90s.
Riot. The Pine Tree Riot started in Riverdale at the mill by Mudgett and the Wild Boys of Riverdale.
It's a huge part of history.
It's a very huge part of history. And someday, before I leave the earth, I want a green sign.
Yeah, come over.
I want a big green sign by the
Really
state
sad.
sign.
Drive down where the
They got
roads
it
are
up
pretty
north
old
by
now.
Forest Lake, they got the static club, the mill sites. They should have one there.
Getting prettier by the day down there.
Now, you asked why we, divided up the area like it is, why we chose those areas. They're bounded on one side by the 114, bounded on the other side by the railroad. North is by the river. I mean, yeah, you could continue traveling up the roads as far as you want. There's something historical in Weare in a lot of places. I mean, the old cemetery. You're not gonna extend this area up 3 miles or 2 miles up the road.
Yeah, no.
So you have to kind of find some sort of cutoff spot.
No. We happened first, and Boston Tea Party happened
Did they copy that?
Yeah, they did. We were the first ones to revolutionize.
Yeah, but we didn't weren't wearing the Native American costume.
So 198 is zoned residential agricultural right now. I can't tell what 199 is, looks like it doesn't matter, but,
It's .17.
yeah. So obviously, we all know that 200, 202, 203, 205 are all commercial. 204 is residential in the middle of all that, and so is, I think it's 206 with the mill on it.
If that's where the mill was, and I think you're right, yeah.
Yeah, that's, if you look closely, it looks like that arrow is pointing that sliver that's just on the west side of the road.
Yeah, the 130, you can barely see the arrow.
Yeah, I
It's-
apologize, I took this from the town map, and then with scanning and
Oh,
blowing it
yeah,
up.
I understand.
Yeah, photocopying.
The bifocals and everything
Yeah,
else.
exactly. It's a wonder we're all looking at the same thing,
Yes.
right?
That's why I threw some color on there so we can kind of at least get a point of reference.
So let me ask a silly question, since we're all kind of dancing around it so far. What is the purpose of including Gary Remillard and Granite State Plumbing into this?
The
To
purpose,
be as blunt as I can be.
and I'll answer as honestly as I can, the purpose of the ordinance is to prevent any further commercial development within this district. And quite frankly, there's a lot of commercial development there or ongoing that will be there. And we feel that that's quite enough for the neighborhood. And I mean, realistically, if I can bounce the question back to you, once the development that's there is complete, how much more realistically could be done on those lots anyway?
I don't think anything. That's why I'm asking why is it included, but
Well, just as a safeguard, really.
obviously Rice is 203, something
Right,
could
and
happen.
I think the gentleman we're talking about owns one or two of the other lots
Yes.
within the district as well, so.
But they're not zoned commercial.
No,
They're,
one I think is, but
well, yeah, that's because he did a lot line adjustment, so it's now, the house is where the number 131 is on the map.
right, I think so.
Those are still zoned commercial. They would probably be considered, I think that's map 2, or lot 205 yet. And everything else is lot
And what's to
202,
say
I
that you're
think.
just gonna subdivide that and make it bigger and a bigger industrial park?
It doesn't have any room.
Well,
Well, the one lot,
in
the
50
one
years,
lot.
in 50 years, there could be a high-rise there in 50 years.
No, with our zoning. I don't think that's gonna happen in Ware, but I understand.
But the end result is trying to protect that area. I mean, like I said, the depot station area on the other side of the river, that was historical. It should have been part of the overlay originally. So, we're trying to expand so everything, at least in this general area, is protected.
I was surprised that the Clements Mill site was not on the historic district. When I saw the map, I couldn't believe that they didn't have Clements Mill site on there. That is what put Riverdale on the map.
So why not make the village district bigger rather than making, or both, make the village district bigger and make an overlay?
Because it's not protected, as we just saw recently in the past 6 months.
No, but as part of this.
Yes.
Amend the village district itself to,
But we weren't
So the
protected
lines
here.
coincide with these
We weren't protected by
lines.
building, we weren't protected by encroachment.
so your overlay district is on the village district.
We took what we thought was the simplest approach here.
Obviously,
I mean, I can't say that there was any particular rationale other than that, but just to keep this as simple as possible, because we understand if we put this before the voters, We want to make sure that it's easy to understand and that it's clear that we're really not asking for much except that it's not complicated.
I don't want to see a Home Depot coming next.
You don't have enough land at the whole village district for Home Depot.
I'm surprised at what's going in there. Everybody wants grocery stores.
I mean, when you talk about the lot lines, if we had gone further north onto the other side of the river, then, you know, you could say that we were trying to interfere over on
Yeah.
Jennifer Lane. You know, we didn't go that far. You know, that's still that issue over there.
Yeah,
So, I mean, yes, Mr. Remillard does have a property in the middle, but it's also affecting everybody else's house around the area that we're expanding, hoping to expand to.
Well, I'm saying all this for two reasons. One, if you did this to my property, I'd be opposed to it, to be blunt. I have some my land is residential agricultural, rural agriculture, excuse me. And if you imposed a village district on me, I wouldn't be very happy. That's one. The same thing if I owned commercial land. Obviously I wouldn't want it then. So I don't know if I don't want to be forcing things onto people who have been paying commercial taxes for how many years. Suddenly you're going to make this rural agricultural change his uses drastically.
No, I'm sorry, I thought that we're
No
not,
change.
No
Anything that's
no
exist-
cluster.
sorry?
Huh?
No cluster housing.
We don't want that.
Wait,
I know, but he can do it now.
Where?
There's no room
Lot
there.
198.
Doesn't he have to have 15 acres minimum for cluster?
Okay, you can stick on part of 198.1 with it to get 15.
That's Mr. G's place. He's not gonna add into it. They broke off, so they have.
Yeah, no, I know, he just subdivided, then you got Brookshire right above that, I think.
It just seems that you're
And-
putting areas in this historic overlay district that aren't historic.
Yes, but
Is-
all of the area that you call not historic is used in ways that affect the area that is historic.
But
And hence, if you want to protect the historic area, you have to include other areas that would, if inappropriately developed, adversely affect that.
Or alternately come up with a definition of non-historic area. As Joe or Kevin pointed out, there's almost nowhere in Weare that's not got some history attached to it.
You have a town that's been around 250 years, it's pretty hard to stay away from some histories. All the history, that's for sure. Since we have all these people here, which lots do you guys live on?
211.
211. Where in the world's 211? Oh, and I should know where you are. Down 211. I should know that.
And my
Yes.
other family member is 210.
210? It's Kyle?
And we're 208.
207,
208.
208, 207.
418.
128.
We're 128, 120.
What, 418?
Yep,
That real tiny one.
418.
next to
It's really tiny.
418.
little guy in the corner there. They have the great.
There's a lot of corners.
Right on the river, corner of River Road and Riverdale.
Directly across from 130.
It's almost like Golden's old place.
You know, it looks like the
Golden's old
servants'
place,
quarters.
right? It's Golden's old place.
I don't see that number.
I don't either.
I didn't see that number on the actual tax map either. We have.
That's the
we should
tax
include
map
that.
number.
Yeah, you're giving us your street address, right?
No.
Tax
Oh.
map
Address is
number?
11.
Did you say 407?
It's next to 407. I think
Wait,
it's.
what'd you say, 418?
407, 407 is lot 130.
Right here. If you look at,
But it's across the river.
I just
No.
turned the paper to it went sideways on me.
Right there.
Right here,
Right there.
right below 208.
Right.
That-
407, got it.
What's that, right there?
412.
419,
Okay.
412, whatever, that's what she's talking about. They're just a little,
It's this lot 207 and 209.
128, 209, 129.
I don't think that number you're reading there is a lot number. I think it's a,
Whatever
I
it
think it's
is,
a grade.
that's where she is.
That's the
I think it's
address.
a grade number.
It's the grade, or sometimes it's just the distance,
Okay.
the distance between
Yeah,
one point and
well, I'm
another.
just saying it could be
on the
the,
map,
I think it's 207.
yeah.
on that side. Oh,
407. Well, it says 407 on the map.
No, 207.
407, she's actually
She's 130,
Little sliver of land.
under
there.
130.
right here.
My little piece of
407.
paradise.
Okay. Which is 130.
You should have.
No, 130's on the left, on the west side, she's on the east side.
130's on the east side.
No.
Yes.
Okay, you're right, right. Because
206 is on the west.
yeah, but this is where the old site was.
Yes, she's over there.
Right, got it. I see the arrow.
I thought they had a chance to see this.
And the street address 407.
A lot of people.
Okay.
Once they figure out.
Okay, hang on, back up. We got it. So nobody around 212, 213, 215.
Yes, she's working tonight. 213, 212 is Linda Bellafo.
Yes, I knew that too.
She couldn't make it tonight.
214, 216.
214, 215, 216, 217, those people? Going out Riverdale.
Isn't that her other property? Didn't she go with both properties? Linda?
213, 212.
Yeah, 216 is Hardee's.
Yes, it is.
I don't know who's at 217 anymore.
217, I think.
The driveway access 114 used to be, one of the Holtons up there at one point.
Yes.
So basically what we're saying, what we're trying to say is the Riverdale Village District is everything east of the river on this map.
Yeah, between the river and the railroad tracks.
Right.
Not
That's what I meant.
entirely.
No, the mill's on the other side of the river.
Yeah,
No, no. Hold on, just, on the east side of the, not everything that's on the east side of the river in this map is in the district. A lot of the property down here along Depot Street and the end of River Road here are not. This,
There.
and a little bit along the river, and then the 208 where the Codys live, that's the district. It's really hard to see even on the website map because it's in this corner with the town lines and everything in the way. It's really hard to tell. But if you look really closely and match it up with the tax map, you can figure out what's green and in the current village district and what's not, what's yellow or beige.
You might want to double check that. The website map may be old.
Well, how else would I check that?
Talk to Wendy in the assessing.
They just did a
We-
whole new map.
We just did a new map like this year. She just did a new map this year.
Okay.
She started from the beginning of zoning and came forward, went through every town vote to make sure she had everything right because we had some inconsistencies.
No.
Yeah.
These inconsistencies were before, confined to after the industrial park, was it?
In any case, that's partly
Oh, they
why
were
the
all over the
wording
place.
and the ordinance is saying, based on this, the map that's, the tax map that's currently on the website from 1975, like regardless of whether those numbers have changed, these are the,
The one I got that's reduced shows everything between the river and the railroad track as village district.
that was
But
the one I was
it's reduced,
comparing.
so it's tough to see, but
That's not on the GIS map. Is that?
That may be different than what's actually online. That was the only access.
yeah, it may be, I don't know.
So you're probably right,
Well-
that all of that there. But then I think some of the stuff here at the end of Depot Street, that little, you can see the tiny little bump out
Yeah,
there.
maybe-
That's one
Yeah.
thing we're
The
adding.
piece up
Yeah.
against Goffstown's out there.
Yeah, this,
Yeah.
yeah.
We lost them, sorry.
Boston, yeah. Just outside of us.
Where was I going with that? I don't remember now. I would like to see what all the affected landowners think of the whole idea. I mean, I know what Gary Remillard and Granite State Plumbing are gonna say, but at least I think I do. They may be surprised me.
And how would you propose that we do that?
Send them a letter,
But don't you want to,
knock on their door. It doesn't matter
but
to me.
wouldn't you get that if you had a public hearing on this?
Maybe.
If the planning
The way-
board,
The way I've been reading the selectmen minutes lately, people don't pay attention to when we have a public hearing all the time.
but
I just read some.
you could notify everybody, all the abutters, or everybody who's in the district or abuts the district. But
Yes.
if the planning board votes to include this as one of its warrant articles, then there will be 3 public hearings.
Yes, but I just read something that, on the selectmen minutes, saying we should have had a public hearing on the subdivision regulations before we changed them also.
We did.
I know, we had 3, but that's beside the point. Obviously, nobody knew we had 3 public hearings on it.
Even
That's
though
my
they were
point.
noticed the
Even-
same way that this meeting is noticed?
Yes. I'm trying to make sure the public gets informed for a change before we get smacked again by the.
Let me ask you a question. If this were a petitioned article, would there be a public hearing?
Yes.
All petitioned warrant articles
They
for,
come, they,
But there's only one. It's the
there's
one
just
that
one,
comes before
one that
us.
comes up, come before us, we recommend or don't recommend it.
right, but in that process, is there a public hearing? Joe, Sally, and 25 others signed a petition to change the zoning for Lot 5, tax map 1.
There is a public meeting and we discuss it. I don't know if it's a public hearing or not. How's that for an answer? Not a good answer.
Not satisfactory, but I got that.
I think the public hearing would be then at the deliberative session when it's brought forth as a warrant.
No, it's not discussed at the deliberative session. None of the zoning articles are on the are
Or discuss
up for, are discussable by state law at the deliberative session. It's only
That's
the
right. It's only at town
non-planning
meetings.
board articles.
That's right, only at town meetings, I think.
So,
So I don't think it is, I don't think it is a public hearing. A citizen petition.
we might want to check that.
Right. I think we ought to at least send a letter to all the people.
In the
And I don't think
All
you
the
guys
people
have
who are
to
gonna
do it.
be
I think we
affected
can
in the
do it.
district, yeah.
We don't have any budget, but how much is a 50-cent stamp gonna cost for all these people?
And saying what?
Just tell them there's a public hearing. about
Tell him
this.
what the proposal
And
is.
close a copy of this with it.
You'll check with Drescher first to make sure that that's copacetic?
If it's not copacetic, I'll go down and knock on all the doors. How's that?
No, no, no.
Because I'm gonna make sure that everybody knows we're doing this.
I understand.
Why you so mad? Yeah.
The reason I'm saying this,
Cut Gary.
if I was the owner of block 198, 199, 200, 201, 202, and all of a sudden you're changing the zoning on me, I would like to know about it.
Yeah, but
I
how
want to
do you
make
do it
sure,
in the past?
I want to
Done it
make
in
sure
the
these
past, same
owners
way.
know about this, that's all.
Whenever a proposal like this has come before you in
Yeah,
the
what have you
past,
done?
has it always been a requirement for them to?
I don't think we've had this since I've been on the board.
This is the
Yeah,
first it's
we-
ever happened?
Yeah.
There was the Mount Dearborn and
I went on the
the
board,
Did anybody
Just-
know
And how about,
property behind Smith?
Clinton Grove.
I went on
When
the
did that
board.
get changed?
It just seems undue burden on us to have to do that.
No, you don't have to do it, we're gonna do it.
No, he's gonna do it.
Planning board's gonna do it.
And as I was saying earlier, it's not our intention to conceal this from the neighbors. We
No, I'm not
understood-
trying- no,
Yeah, I
I'm-
understand. We wanted to present this to you because that way if there are changes, as we're proposing at least one, what we actually put before the neighbors who've not yet heard about this, who've not participated in the process, see exactly what it is rather than
Okay.
seeing some early version, so. So, I mean, I understand what you're saying.
Yeah, I just want to make sure everybody's informed, that's all, I'm not trying to hide anything from
And if
anybody.
this helps, this doesn't include some of the property owners you have, but this is a petition that we had at least, there are about 20 people on the new residents of Weare, if not
If
that
he's not
district.
doing anything more, it shouldn't bother him, right?
Pardon me?
If he's not gonna do anything more, it shouldn't
No.
bother him, correct?
Either way, he should know about it, that's
We'll
all.
know about it.
Yeah, that's the way they do it.
Well,
This is a public
They
forum
post
right
it.
now.
Yes.
It's been posted.
We've been doing everything publicly above
No.
board.
I'm not saying anybody has done anything below the board, whatever the word I want. Like I just got done saying, at the last selectmen's meeting, somebody said that there should have been a public hearing before the planning board revised the subdivision regulations. We had 3 public hearings. They were all noticed. They were all done perfectly legal. But somehow, people didn't see any of them.
Isn't that their problem?
Yes,
Yeah.
but but at the same time, from the planning board's perspective, we should make sure people know that we have these hearings.
But that's how they
That's-
save
that's how we
money,
get their
by
input.
posting it on their website to save the town money from that 50-cent stamp. If we keep paying 50-cent stamps every time someone doesn't want to read your public notice, it's gonna get expensive. Every time that something comes up.
Like I said before, if we don't mail out a letter, I'll go knock on the doors myself. I don't care.
It doesn't make, the investment doesn't make sense to us.
Well, we notify our butters when anytime we change certain things, the lot lines and everything else, and I think, the other abutters who aren't here, or the other property owners that are gonna be abutting this, are entitled to know. If you didn't know, and all of a sudden you own a piece of property, you get hit with this, wouldn't you be upset if all of a sudden it came up? I'm not talking about Mr. Remillard or anybody else, I'm talking about the other property owners. Well, this isn't,
I mean,
this
it
is...
is gonna change their taxes. It's
This
gonna
is
change
due
their tax
diligence.
rate.
So, no, the due diligence is also to make sure those people who are also taxpayers are notified. So we will either send a letter as an abutter like any other type of...
I mean, you are gonna change, you
modification.
could be changing their tax rate and everything else at the same
Yeah.
time. Or you will be changing their tax rate, I should say. No may about it, you will be.
Not their rate, maybe the valuation.
Valuation, yes.
Yeah.
Not rate, I'm sorry. What they're paying in taxes is gonna change.
Like our value.
So you're,
Value went down already.
so you're going to check with the attorney to find out what we should do?
How we should do it.
Okay. And
I love your petition, but I have no idea where these addresses are. I can relate to lot numbers, not addresses, so I'm sorry.
I can go back and put the lot numbers on there for you. Most of them are along, most of them are a lot of the people that are here, so they're along the sections of Riverdale Road that come up from Riverdale out to 114 and then up River Road.
Yeah, I see most of the address of Riverdale.
Yes.
Couple Depot, but not many.
Yeah, Depot Street as well, that's where we live.
Thorndike.
Thorndike Street, that's...
It's not in the proposed district, but they're Weare residents.
So
That's where I live. Almost.
what happens when somebody with a commercial piece of property comes in and they want to change the use from use A to use B?
what do you mean? What do you say and what you speak?
Big Granite State Plumbing Heating sells their building, and another commercial use comes in there, and
Well, that building would be grandfathered for commercial.
Or to be grandfathered for plumbing and heating.
That specific?
That's the question.
that's what I'm asking.
But that goes well beyond this. I mean, that's something that Drescher would tell us. Grandfathering is, well, Mr. Chairman, could you discuss the options that are open to the planning board with respect to the subcommittee report?
We have lots of options. Where do I start? I would prefer that we come to an agreement as to how this is gonna be worded, where it's gonna be, and then we post it as a subdivision, as a zoning ordinance change. The final hearing would be in January.
So there would be public hearings.
Yes.
Yes.
So
At least two.
And those public hearings would or would not require mailed notice to each of the people within the district and abutting the district?
Require?
Yes.
I don't believe so.
Okay. And at the end of that process, in January, after the deadline for filing a petition article has passed, the planning board would do what? Vote to include it, vote
Yes.
not to include it?
Yes,
Either of those.
either one, yes.
So if these folks are concerned that the planning board, after
Oh, let's not-
considering it.
I hope we don't go to the point where we have a citizen petition proposing this and then a planning board amendment proposing that.
Well, I'm concerned that, well, that would be a problem. The other possibility is the planning board declines to put this on the warrant.
That's a possibility.
And then there is no petition.
I hope that doesn't happen.
Okay.
Because I know they've spent time, and then they're obviously interested citizens, so obviously the board has to look at those things, think about those things. There's,
So would it be to our advantage as a group to not seek the board's approval as a warrant article and put it in as a citizen petition and not worry about you guys at the last minute deciding not to push forward on it? I mean, we still have to have a public one-time meeting or a public disclosure, but I'm just wondering, like Mr. Nealon brought up, is that at one point you guys decide in January, no, this is not going through, we have no recourse at that point. Whereas right now we have two ways of going about this.
what was your question? I heard what you said, but I didn't hear the question.
I think what he's asking is whether, you
Should we
know,
do a petition?
should we do it ourselves, or should we do it through the planning board?
Because it
And-
sounds like you're gonna,
To be honest, I think I can only think of, I can't think of any, since I've been on the board, citizen petitions that were not recommended by the planning board that passed. Since I've been on the board, I don't know of any of them that passed.
Ken? Oh, trust me,
I'm just,
I'd like to say, you know, obviously.
I'm
with
not trying to
with the
say,
bo-
don't
with the
do it.
board,
I would much rather we work together, get something on the planning,
Right.
on the agenda.
But we don't wanna be left holding the bag at the end.
And
I don't think that's gonna happen, my opinion.
And even a citizen petition, you still have to come before the planning board once, and we either recommend or don't recommend.
Right, but then it still go before,
Right.
forward anyhow.
Right.
But if we
But it says on the ballot, the planning board don't recommend
Right.
this. And like I said, I never saw one pass that said that.
I
But-
understand.
I
But
think,
that is an option.
But
There is one?
I don't remember whether the planning board recommended or didn't recommend the Mount Dearborn
That was
ordinance.
before my time.
But there was a major campaign, signs all over the place, and that
Yeah.
passed
Yep.
by a small margin.
I do remember.
But I don't remember what the planning board did. And my guess is that the planning board must have signed in against it, or there wouldn't have been such a
The only
contretemps.
other one I can think of is the growth ordinance. They both passed.
Right.
So obviously, the planning board didn't recommend the citizen petition because they had their own, and they both passed. But I wasn't on the planning board then either, so. I've been here a while, but not that long. I
So-
hope we can work something out to where the planning board gets a zoning ordinance amendment in January. I don't,
But if the result doesn't achieve what these folks are interested in, making sure that there isn't commercial development, further commercial development in a much larger area than is currently in the village district, and the planning board recommends that, it's, as from their perspective, it's not very helpful.
I understand. That is a possibility, yes.
Yes, because you could actually downsize it and say, you know, we would go along with it, but the overlay should be point A to point B and cut these X number of parcels out, correct?
Or we could say, instead of including all of lot 198, 200, 202, et cetera, what if we said 400 feet from the center line of Riverdale Road?
How can you put a line down the middle of a parcel of property?
With a pencil, zip. I have one on my property. You got a wetland ordinance on top of your property, you got aquifer overlays on top of your property. There's
Conservation district.
hundreds of properties that have have split zoning. Maybe not hundreds,
Some properties, as you know,
dozens.
are halfway between Town A and Town B, and you pay taxes to the town where your bed happens to fall.
I mean, personally, I would almost prefer an offset to Riverdale Road saying whatever number. 400 feet, 500 feet or something from the center line of Riverdale Road. That would keep the residences Or a distance from River Road, or distance from Riverdale for that triangle back there. Just a thought, rather than including all the lot.
See, we thought it was easier to just include the lot versus trying to draw a line through people's property.
What's your thinking as to doing it that way as opposed to the way that they've proposed?
One is the Granite State Plumbing and Heating's property.
It would still be covered under your, it would be included on
Not all of it.
the 400 feet?
Well, if that's 260 feet right there, you're only talking 200 feet back there.
Yeah, but the objective here is to eliminate not the commercial development itself, but the consequences of that in terms of noise, traffic.
Impact.
And therefore, if you simply cut it off at 400 feet, and 400 feet allows all of these buildings, all of this activity to occur outside the 400 feet, yet all of the traffic will go on Riverdale Road.
You've certainly cut the development down considerably by cutting lots in half, basically. I'm just throwing things out there. I'm just kicking.
Yep, yeah, no.
I'm not saying I'm sold on that. I'm just saying if it's a possibility. I would like to know what people.
When's the last day to submit a petitioned article, do you know? Did Chip give us that?
No.
He didn't give us the dates for our hearings yet, or he did?
Well, he did, but he didn't have them right, so we had to work on them. I don't think we've got new ones.
See if I can find it.
No. This is just work sessions, not, thank you, not the deadlines.
Your next meeting technically falls on Thanksgiving.
We're meeting next week.
Instead.
Next week instead.
Some things are sacred.
Okay, which are we? We're the SB2?
SB2.
Wednesday, December 12th is the last day to accept petitions to amend zoning ordinances.
December 12th?
December 12th.
December 12th, 2018 is the last day to submit a petitioned article.
Okay, so then where does that leave us in terms of that being a possibility for us? I mean, what would change between now and December 12th that would allow us to,
Well,
whether that's the route we want to take?
if the chairman schedules some sort of a hearing after consulting with council and notifying people within and abutting the district, and if that were to occur
Before that date.
before that date, and substantive discussion or even a vote by the planning board before that date,
Well, that has to be next week,
Yeah.
we're not meeting when's the next meeting after the 15th?
13th.
13th of November? Of December?
Yeah, the day after.
Of course.
Oh, boy.
Of course it is.
But it's,
The way it always works, isn't it?
I mean, we may want to, because of that 12th date,
We could have a meeting on December
we
6th.
could have a meeting on December 6th.
I don't have a problem with that,
Because it's from the
for this only.
15th to the 13th is a month without a meeting, essentially.
Right. And we-
Right?
yep.
and by that time, we're gonna have several things on the agenda besides this, that's for
Right.
sure.
But we'll do
Okay,
that.
so let's assume we're meeting on the 6th, and at that time, we either have the public hearing, or we've heard from people, we've given them notice, and
Right.
they've had a chance to comment. And at that meeting, then, we could act on this?
Well, we're not gonna have a final draft, but we will have a,
We'll have to do something at that point. Decide whether we're gonna,
go forward with it or not.
yeah.
Okay. So that if we decide to go forward with it, well, if we decide not to go forward with it, or if we decide to go forward with it in a way that
They don't
these
like.
folks
They got-
don't
they got-
like,
they got
they
weak-
still could put in their petition.
Yeah.
That's
And
fair.
by that,
Always
you
meet
mean
on the
the
29th.
warrant article 25 or more signatures?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I'd rather go on a 6, give more time. before-
But you understand that at that point, it's almost certain that the planning board would not recommend that article.
Right. We do. But the point is, right now, we're just talking about contingency plans.
Yes.
What the schedules are and so
Right.
forth, like deadlines and all that, yeah.
This is all contingent.
Right.
I guess the one thing that strikes me is creating an overlay district for Riverdale Historic Overlay District, and the thing that's historic that you want to create the overlay district for wouldn't be allowed in the district today,
What do you mean?
the mill.
We're not trying to build a new
We're not
mill.
trying to,
I know that.
the end wouldn't be built either, it would-
It just,
It's just be an industrial building,
We're not doing the full idea.
a big one.
so if you just,
I think that's kind of.
I understand the irony.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's ironic,
It's
but it's not a
ironic.
good argument, I think.
I know. It's ironic.
Even with all that smoke.
Yeah. DES will be down there with scrubbers.
So you can't put a church in there?
No, nothing, except a single-family house. Period.
No fire station?
That's not true, because the town's,
Municipal facility?
It says municipal facilities.
but
Well, the town doesn't.
the town is not,
Right, the town can take it and do whatever they want.
right.
We can put a school there too if we wanted to.
So I guess that municipal facilities doesn't need to be in there then.
Really.
So can I just ask a big picture question here?
Sure, please.
So the point of contacting all these additional folks is to understand where they stand on this?
And to make sure they realize what's going on, yes.
Okay, and
But-
then next steps are,
But it's also that sometimes new information, a new perspective, enables people to think differently about what's before them. It doesn't always happen. Sometimes it never happens, but there's a possibility. So that's one of the reasons for contacting and having as many people contribute as possible.
You might be better off to have another ally instead of making an enemy. You know, they may feel slighted that you didn't notify them, and all of a sudden this happens, and they go, what's gonna happen to my property? I mean, I can't, if it's rated for agriculture, you know, rural agriculture, oh, that means I can't put another building up there, put a barn, or, you know, it's gonna go all types of 8 different ways. So, I mean, I think the best thing to do is, what's the thing of notifying them? If you don't notify them, you're saying, oh, I don't wanna, you know, why should we have to? Then it makes it look like you're hiding, something. So, I mean, at this point, you're better off to make an ally, which is a great possibility, instead of making an enemy.
I don't think you can put another barn up.
No, but I'm just using that as an example. I mean, now you're affecting these
What's that?
people's property.
I don't think you can put another barn up.
Why is that?
It's not allowed.
Yeah, now, I mean, once this passes, but I'm saying the thing is that, you know, they may be a friend, they may be
Can
another
somebody
ally.
change- Like, if somebody has a area where they can build a barn, if this is all farmland right now zoning, can it be changed to commercial after an overlay is put on the area? Can you
Sure.
change the zoning, I'm asking?
Just the same as you are, yes.
Yeah,
In the future, it could be rezoned differently.
Even though it's in a historic overlay?
It doesn't matter.
Okay.
Anything that you do, your successors can undo
yeah.
and do something
If the owner
else.
came in and submitted a petition to change his zoning from something to commercial and take it out of the overlay district, it goes in the ballot, and people voted in,
That's what I
yeah.
was wondering.
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, on C3-1, which says single-family dwellings are permitted in the district, shouldn't that be amended to say, and accessory structures? So that a garage
Well, I was just
or a
gonna-
workshop,
I was wondering if we could put up a tool shed.
a tool shed?
Can you put a farm stand up, sell vegetables?
I don't think you can do anything but a single-family house, the way this is written.
That's why I'm wondering if we shouldn't add, or if the board should
Well-
suggest that we add and accessory structures to the single-family dwelling.
I don't think we have any objection to that. It's just something that didn't come up in our discussions. The idea of a shed.
This is very, very restrictive. Just with the only thing allowed is a single-family dwelling. You might want to review that.
Well, we're
It's
in
not
already.
actually substantively different than the other overlay districts that are on the books already. In fact, we're asking if it's a lot less restrictive than those other two districts. We're not asking for anything that's not already been applied to other
We're We're
overlays.
doing this and saying that, just a single-family dwelling,
Let's-
he wants to put a small garage up there.
Well, I
Snow
mean,
machines and
I'm
stuff. Yeah,
agreeing
so I
that we
mean-
could allow for accessory
So-
structures. It's not something we considered. It wasn't our intention to say you can't put up a fruit stand.
The barn was mentioned. It's one thing if Joe puts up a barn for his 5 cows and 6 horses, or chickens, whatever it is, and it's not a commercial operation. I would think that would be an accessory structure. It's another thing if Joe puts up a barn with 200 cows and is selling milk commercially.
And again, you make a good point, because what we're talking here ultimately is about the impact of the activity, not the actual structure. So
Right.
if someone's putting up a barn to house a few livestock animals, that's not going to have a huge effect on traffic and noise and so forth. But if someone starts up a cattle raising operation in the middle of Riverdale, that would. So this is where maybe we need your help to refine the wording a bit to capture the intent of protecting us from the impact of commercial development without seeming overly restrictive on what can be done.
What about the guy that wants to work out of his house?
Oh, that's already already allowed in the ordinance, because it's a home-based business. That's not
Not
covered
anymore.
here. Sorry?
Not anymore.
Why not?
Oh, wow.
No,
No
that's
commercial
not, that
development.
it's not restricted.
It is. The only thing allowed,
No, no.
your permitted use.
I don't see anywhere in here you can do that.
The only thing allowed is what you list as your permitted use.
Yeah, it's weird for them to do this.
That wasn't the understanding we had of that. We're not addressing the idea of home-based business here in any way, so we're not changing what's already in the ordinances.
But you're changing the area
Yeah,
to
you're
a specific
saying
area for the
home-based
ordinance.
Overlay is not changing.
Where does it, how do you figure that,
So you're
Craig?
gonna change the rules for that
I
specific
don't see any
area?
words such as or
No,
anything
but-
like that at all.
So-
But hold on, let's go back to the ordinance.
I just think this is, it's too,
This historic overlay district is superimposed on top of the village district.
Yeah.
Hold on, home-based businesses.
That's why they call this a work study.
Yeah.
Where the heck, where are the definitions? Page 12. Home shop, such as electrician, plumber, or similar tradesman shop, which shall be shown to be of character as to not require outside storage visible to the surrounding properties, and shall not be a source of nuisance to neighbors by reasons of noise, dust, glare, traffic, vibration, or other disruptive influence, and which employs no more than 2 individuals who are outside of the family. That's what a home shop is. Now,
Tulip is home-based business. Shall mean any legal use which is carried on entirely within a dwelling and occupying no more than 25%.
that's within the dwelling.
Yes, or
Okay.
500 square feet, whichever is less.
Well, since dwellings are allowed, a home-based business is allowed.
And I would point out that the village district ordinances, the general ones, don't make any points about home-based businesses. So does that mean by implication that home-based businesses are not allowed in any of the currently defined village
Well,
districts?
you're allowed mixed-use businesses in the village district.
Right, but a
That's not the
home,
word I wanted, but you know what I mean.
the light commercial use, but that doesn't fall under, that doesn't encompass home-based businesses, that's light commercial. I understood that those were two different things.
Yeah, they are.
Okay, so that's my
In
point.
the Weare Center Village, mixed use of structures for residential and commercial use. You like agricultural, you're not allowed agricultural in the
That's correct.
Riverdale Historic Overlay District.
And that's agricultural business.
No, you're not allowed agricultural.
Just as agriculture.
It's listed as an allowed use in the village district, agriculture, but excluding the grazing and care of livestock such as cows, horses, pigs, goats,
Okay.
and poultry. You're not allowed to do that in this.
Well, no, we're
It
not
says excluding.
Where does it say that?
You just read it.
Agriculture is a permitted use, but
Yes.
excluding. You're not allowed to do agriculture in the Riverdale Historic Overlay District.
How do you figure that?
It's not listed as a
But
permitted
my
use.
point is, the general village district ordinances.
This is over top of that.
Hold on.
You
So
got a
we're
zoning,
supposed to go
you got a zoning ordinance, you got a zoning district, and this is over top of it. Just because this says you can do it, this
Well,
says
what
you
you're
can't.
saying is, this will supersede and wipe out everything out of the
Yes.
village.
That's right.
That's right.
Okay,
Yes,
that wasn't
right.
our understanding.
So-
And the commercial zone, and the
Right.
residential zone, and the rural agricultural zone, those won't mean a thing. It's just this.
And this is the only thing
Yeah.
that will mean, there'll be no more basic village district or anything, just this piece of paper.
Right.
In this,
Because of,
That was not our intent.
Because-
We were under the
The
impression,
more restrictive apply.
we were under the impression that the village, regulations were still going to be implied, and this was just going to be an overlay to go over the top of those.
it lays on top.
That is, unless we explicitly excluded something that was in an ordinance somewhere else, that
Or-
other ordinance was still
Or
included.
included.
Or included. So anything you
By
see,
listing the permitted uses, though, it's the assumption everything else is not permitted.
but that wasn't our understanding
understand.
constructing this, so
Yep.
that wasn't, it wasn't our
So that's
intention
like
to.
rewriting the whole,
So now you know where I was going about 20 minutes ago. That's what I was like, you're really restricted what these guys can do.
yeah.
All they can do is
that's
put a
like
single-family
rewriting the
house.
whole law then.
You can't have a garage, you can't have a,
Oh, hell, yeah.
Can't run a home
I
business,
gotcha.
can't.
yeah, you can't do
I
anything.
can see now we were both
Okay.
on the wrong page,
yeah.
Okay.
absolutely.
How do we fix that?
I think we can do what we just said.
Back to the drawing board.
We changed this to about this.
Just expand the historic district.
You'll have to expand what your permitted uses are and what your restricted uses are specifically.
Meaning we have to go through the rest of the ordinances and figure out
Just
exactly which
as a,
ones.
for instance, in the Clinton Grove Historic Overlay District, right away it says 30BC, restrictions, uses permitted in the village district are permitted in the CGHOD with the following restrictions.
Which you don't have here, so you don't allow
You know what I mean?
the underlying uses.
Well,
But you
So,
could put
so
on- you
if
could
I,
put
let
on
me,
this-
if I can ask,
put on this,
Very simple.
does not
gentlemen,
supersede-
please.
If
He's
I-
the chairman.
if I may ask, then, is the solution here to what, Bruce, what you just said, to reword this so it doesn't say permitted uses and restrictions, but says whatever it was you just said, to make it clear that this is just
Whatever your permitted uses are.
whatever the underlying permitted
And what
uses
the
are?
restrictions are specifically.
But doesn't this already do that in C3-4? It says, "Non-permitted uses in the village district are also non-permitted uses in this," suggesting that any permitted uses in the village district are permitted in this.
Or do we add a line that's
I think you need
specific?
to
Well, in that
specifically say
case, you can
that.
do commercial
Okay,
development.
but would
Yes.
that resolve the issue
Yes.
by adding a line after that that says permitted uses in the village district are permitted in the overlay? Would that address the
Yes,
concerns?
and then you
about-
could, take out things that you don't want to permit out of that list.
And then add the accessory
Or,
structures for,
Right. So, I'm sorry, when you say take out of the,
if you don't like everything that's permitted in the village district.
then just
If there's things in
specify
there, you
what's
can
not.
Specify what's
Okay.
not.
And then are you suggesting we put that in two separate sections, one in permitted uses
Yes,
that's defined, and then a separate one that says restricted?
yes.
Okay, that makes sense.
22.4 on page 27 are permitted uses in the village districts, single-family dwellings, etc., including 3-unit buildings, light commercial uses, mixed uses, agriculture excluding grazing care of livestock as a gainful business, and a few other things. So you'd have to apparently go through that and decide which of those you want to keep and which you don't.
Just in the 22.4.
I'm not sure that's the only one, because this doesn't mention home-based businesses and...
Yeah, I forget where that is too, but
Yeah.
I'll check that. Okay. But yeah, that's not a problem. This is just a, we're all new at this, so.
I'm glad we finally figured out where our crosshairs were.
Yeah.
Could we also not, I'm just throwing this out, and maybe I don't understand. If we were to drop 30-C-3.3.1, just remove that right out of it.
Then
Then
you'll,
this order
wow.
would
well,
would
you'd be
say-
allowing apartments.
Right, but this order would say on dot 2, living houses, cluster housing, condominium, multifamilies, and other high-density housing are not permitted, so we're
Well, Kevin, I
overlaying.
think that's what Bruce is suggesting, that we say permitted uses, non-permitted uses.
Right, but I'm just saying, but if you take out the single-family wording,
Then that makes it almost look like you can't put a single-family house there because it doesn't say it's permitted.
But permitted uses, under the permitted uses section, you would have
You have to list
uses
those.
permitted in the village
Right,
districts.
are still allowed, and so the
Right.
underlying stuff would still apply. And then in a separate section, we itemize the restrictions
Right.
that change that underlying.
Correct.
Yeah. I can picture in my head how to write that and
You
how
gotta
to do
list
that,
both.
Remember, the issue is, you're not just on top of the village district, you're also on top of some commercial property,
Right.
you're on top of residential, on top of rural agricultural. I mean, you got about every zone in this town.
Part
right there.
of- part of something.
Lucky us.
Yeah.
Yeah. A little bit of everything, so everything gets,
Most of the towns like that.
Yeah.
It's just-
still have an aquifer and everything.
somebody had a question back there.
I think Judy.
Yeah, no, actually, I do have a question. So I'm a little bit confused about, and I'm just asking the question not only for us in this room today, but going forward as well, the overlay and the intent of the overlay. And I get it may be the wording, and maybe we need to tweak the wording, but the objective of the overlay is that the two documents work together, that neither is overriding one or the other. I mean, it's almost like transparencies, two transparencies on top of each other.
No.
No,
The
it doesn't work that
overlay-
way. The more restrictive ordinance applies.
Okay, so that's different in this case, and so that, okay, so we're moving forward under that
Yeah.
concept. Okay, thank you for the clarification.
I think you see some light.
I was wondering how you guys did this so quick.
Well, actually, the changes that you're asking for won't take long. It's a
No,
matter-
it really won't. It's the final wording might take a little bit of
Right.
hashing out and thinking about.
Now, how does Mike deal with home-based businesses?
I would just say I would list them as an allowed use.
I'm sorry?
I would list it as an allowed use.
Permitted use.
Yeah, permitted.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just
But
to be
but I'm trying to find out where in some of the other districts we make use of that definition,
Oh, that's a good question.
because that might give him an opportunity to run a parallel. Oh, here it is. In residential district, this is on page 22, 1724. Permitted uses, home-based business or home occupations, including but not limited to. So, and
I think you'll say the same thing.
17.2.5, accessory uses or structures and open use of land normally incidental to the permitted principal use of premises.
Yeah. Under the rural ag, you get 1736 and 1737.
It's listed.
Same
under-
thing, yeah.
It's listed under
Okay.
village districts too, under 22.4.
This is very
That's the
helpful, Ray,
permitted
thank you.
uses, so.
No, seriously.
We're getting somewhere, huh?
Yes, absolutely. No,
Good.
it's
Everybody's not mad at me anymore?
It's not a question of being
I
mad.
don't-
You
I don't
raised some
think
good
everyone-
questions
I don't think everyone was.
that hadn't been considered, and that's what
That's why
a
we're-
hearing in public.
That's why we're here.
Yes, exactly.
Okay. So, since we're sitting here talking about this, we're thinking about allowing home-based business,
Yes.
home shop.
Yes.
Do you know the difference?
Yes, because my
Okay.
neighbors have a home shop. We don't, so we already have some of those uses now. We don't have issues with some of with those kind of issues. And I have read it's been a while, but I have read the ordinance that describes, the one that you read out loud about
Okay.
describing home shops.
So the home shop could be in a garage, and home-based business has to be inside the house. Okay. Why not higher density dwelling? Why not higher density housing?
For the same reason as.
Because you're in a village. In a village, it's usually higher density than outside the village. Just a point.
Well, again, the intent of the ordinance is to preserve the character and limit the traffic and the noise and the other things. So in our perception, high-density housing would infringe upon that.
What's your definition? What's your perception of high-density housing?
Well,
Apartment
say
building?
a lot that has condominiums on it, or cluster houses, or,
How about a three-decker?
three-decker.
Well, that's what I was gonna say. You're talking about an apartment building or a three-family
Or an apartment building, yeah, something, yeah.
And
But you're not talking about a 10,000 square foot lot with 150 feet of frontage. Because that's allowed.
That sounds like a different question.
No. Has direct relationship to density.
There's also an historical aspect to this. This village didn't have multifamily housing.
Whoever owns lot 117, whoever you are, you have 330 feet of frontage, you have almost 2 acres. You could easily subdivide into 2 lots, whoever you are. Almost 3.
He's not here, that's Larry.
Okay. I mean, that's higher density in my opinion. I'm just making sure you understand what you're saying, what we're saying.
So if they had a problem with that, they should change the 10,000 square feet.
I think that's, if they have a problem with it, yes. I would be against it because I think it's a village, but, because if you go back to page, where am I? 27-ish.
Yep.
In the village district. Area requirements 10,000 square feet or whatever DES will approve. DES won't approve a 10,000
No,
square
it's gonna
foot
be
building.
20,000 square feet for DES.
Yeah. But the frontage in the Riverdale district has to be 150 feet.
Frontage is 150 in Riverdale?
Yes.
What page?
28, next page.
Got it.
Clinton Grove, it's 250, Riverdale, it's 150, Chase Village, 150, Tavern Village, 150.
I think here we're using the word high density in a different way than it actually means. We can easily change that to something else.
So I mean, I just want to make sure we're thinking the same thing.
Yeah, I understand.
High density to me means.
Houses,
put a bunch
separate
of-
dwellings
you
closer
put
together. Yeah.
Single-family houses close together is high density. It could be one apartment building with 85 units in it.
Which
That would
we
be
don't
high
like the
density also.
apartment building, but we don't necessarily have an objection to
Okay.
having two
Okay.
traditional houses closer together. So we can change that wording as well. Yeah.
As long as we understand what you mean, I think it's okay.
Okay.
I just didn't want to make sure that you
Yeah.
realized that the zoning said what it said. So since the village district allows churches, are you going to allow a church?
The way this is written, the answer is no.
I realize that. What do you have against a church? Okay. So where do we go from here?
Why don't you check with Drescher about, and on the notification, and indicate that we're going to be working on this on
You'll probably have
the
something for the
6th. And Mike will have a revision on the
Yeah, I
6th.
could, much even sooner than that, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I can do it this weekend and get it to you. So at least you have it before you next week, even though we won't be on your agenda next week, yeah.
Can you email whatever you get to me?
If you give me your email, yeah. I'm not sure that I have it.
I wouldn't do it publicly.
If Sheila has it.
Okay. Well, maybe I do, maybe we have communicated by email already, so yeah.
I think we have, but I'm not sure.
Or if you send it to Chip, he could forward it to all.
Yeah.
Right, which is what I've been doing, so.
That's better.
Well, Chip hasn't been sending it to us. That's
No,
why
he
I asked.
hasn't been.
That's why I asked
Ask
for it.
him to.
Well, that's, I think, because I sent it Monday, he was out. And I
Yeah, he's been out. He'll be back Tuesday.
Okay.
That way I'll know I get it. Everybody will get it that way for sure. Okay.
Great.
Thank you. Thank you.
Do you know when you'll be meeting again? Any idea? Next week? Week after? Do
Sorry?
you know when you'll be meeting again? Let me know when you're meeting again. Maybe I'll be able to join you. Is what I'm trying to say.
I'm
There's
not sure
not
that-
going to be a meeting. Mike's
Yeah.
just going to revise it in accordance with these
okay.
suggestions
Okay.
and send you a
The
copy.
committee as it is here, including Neil.
Okay.
I think we're agreed on what we need to do.
Okay.
Agreed among ourselves and with you, so.
I think he just wants to come to the meeting place.
Just heard about the party bar now.
I heard there was cookies.
Yeah.
I'm getting brownies. I didn't know there was, that's better than cookies. Okay.
Now we almost have to have one, right?
So in case anybody is watching and listening to us, we'll be continuing this till December 6th. Hopefully, at 7 o'clock, so there won't be anything else on the agenda. Okay? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And that one, I told you they wouldn't take long, Jack.
Thank you for allowing us to.
Thanks, Jack.
Yeah, your rate's real high. 0 per hour.
Started in the limits. 170 laws, right out of it.
Okay.
Talking about my babysitting skills or something?
Yeah.
It's a pain in the ass to take care of, by the way.
He was then or he is now?
Do you want to have an electronic?
He ran me for my money and back.
Naomi's got electronic.
Yeah.
This is all electronic.
Is your mom and dad gone yet? That must have been hard.
Oh, no, they just moved to, they're not.
Thank you very much.
They moved to Florida.
Yeah, they moved to Florida.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was difficult.
I know, that was all.
They sold the house and everything.
Yeah, Joanne just has quite the history.
Yeah.
All right, guys, see ya. Hope to never see you again.
No, you guys, December 6th.
Oh, I don't know, I'm getting too over this winter driving.
Don't you go there.
Hey, as it is, I can't say I have to go to Sheila's house on a ride. Find my way to Riverdale, but beyond that, forget it.
15-year roof needs replacing?
Okay.
Unbelievable.
Good evening.
Mr. Jack, thank you for your patience.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My name is Jack Dearborn. I'm chairman of the Capital Improvement Plan for the town of Weare. We are a subcommittee of the Planning Board, and under the RSA is that if you have a master plan, planning board, there is also a requirement of a CIP to ensure that there's adequate capital assets for the town to operate under the master plan. So that's why this is linked. And under the RSA, it allows for a subcommittee to be designated, which it has been. That's why I'm here. Just quickly, the members who I'd like to thank is Stu Richmond, Chairman, Steve Roberts, Public at Large, Gary Shelto as well, Jan Snyder, ex officio, and Bruce Fillmore, Planning Board member. Also, I just want to say thank you to Naomi Bolton, Beth Rose, and also Chip Meany for the administration.
We aren't doing Emmys here now, Jack. Let's get this rolling.
Wait a minute. I'm on my time now, right?
No, you're on my time now.
Okay, as you can see quickly, what I'm going to do for the presentation is basically do the first department first, and then I ask for questions, and move to the second department, third department, to work it that way if we can. So this is a criteria we use. Basically, 1 and 2 are the same, with the exception of one is health and safety, and the other one is basically needed in the next year, which is the current, which is the year. The next 3 pages, 4, 5, and 6 are an eye chart. This complies with the requirement of showing that we've done a 6-year plan. Page 7 and 8 basically is the meat of the document as far as what's being requested. This is what we call our whiteboard. Basically, it's the residue of all the requests. And what we did this year is include the impacted tax rate to the right. This is net of all special revenues, anything to do with capital reserves that are going to be used. So basically, if you go to page, excuse me, page 8, you'll see that assuming all these things get approved, for 2019, it's $1.13 on the tax rate. And for capital carried over from 18 and before, it's an extra 25 cents. And that's for anything that's been approved prior years, such as the grader, I believe it's the grader and the bond for the highway garage. This year, 2018 is the completion of the, I think it's the ambulance. So this is sort of like the bottom line. The rest, what I'm going to go through is through the fire department. And Chief Bob is asking.
Jack, what was the bottom line currently?
We'll see it on the back. Don't read ahead. We'll see it later. Okay? To my point, let me get through the presentation for each department, then we can ask questions. Okay. 3 items for the fire department. And recognize that these will be covered by the special revenue fund, so there's no impact taxes. And there's adequate funding in there. Chief's car, he's requesting a $48,000 for a four-wheel drive. The Durango is basically uninspectable, principally because of rust. It's sitting over at the highway garage, and he's forced to use his four-wheel drive at this point. The problem with that is the four-wheel drive has not got an air condition, not a climate-controlled back, because it's the back of the truck, if you will, with a cap. And he has electronic equipment, other stuff, such as a camera, which deserves to be in a heated area or a conditioned area, which would be inside of an SUV. That's the principal reason he wants this. The boat is getting old. It's a fully inflatable. This is a semi-rigid inflatable. It allows for faster transit time on rougher water, and also a higher speed, and also more stability when you're pulling people, for instance, out of the water. Allows for more stability, so he's requesting that. And the last one is an issue of these 4 thermal imaging cameras, principally used for going into a fire. It basically shows you an image distinguishing between heat, and you can actually distinguish bodies laying in a smoke-filled room, and also if there's a crash area where somebody's ejected from the car at night, you can actually find a person over the bank or outside the vehicle. So he's principally asking for these 3 items, total 113. The fire rescue is basically an SUV. This shows a Chevy. I'm not sure what he's going to buy. And this is sort of where the old equipment would go in the back area for transfer. And this is his command center, if you will. The next one is the thermal imaging cameras. This is the 4. This happens to be a color display, which I believe they all come now, where before they were black and white gradients of gray. And this has essentially fully reliable at this point, with the other ones becoming aged and unreliable. Also a picture of the boat. I think it's self-explanatory. Any questions on the fire?
You're not getting a Yamaha engine on the boat, are you?
I didn't hear you.
You're not getting a Yamaha engine on the boat, are you?
No, I expect a yacht. I don't make many ripples in the bathtub, so I don't go on boats. So, any questions on fire? Being none. Police, basically same story. Initially back 4 years ago, we requested, after many years of asking for 1 vehicle, we requested 5, and 5 was turned down. Then we requested the next year 3. 3 were approved. Last year, we requested 2. The planning, the 1 was put on the ballot, that was passed. So this year, we're asking for the 5th vehicle, and essentially the same rationale. And the pricing, because we don't have 2019 prices, he put a 5% bump on it, just to cover it. And what it comes in at is what the price of the vehicle. And this also includes the fit-up for the chattel, such as the lights, sirens, any stuff that goes inside for their work area. Any questions on the police? I just want to highlight that on page 15, this is only going back to 2013. Now, the last time the town actually bought a car was 2011. So there's 2 extra years here that we didn't get repair costs. But if you add up all these repairs to date, it would easily pay for 5 vehicles, and we would have 5 vehicles. Today, we've got a bunch of junk laying around. We pay the repair money, and we only got 4 vehicles. So when you pay a wage to the and benefits to the manpower, and you don't provide them the assets to do the job, they're doing something other than their job. That's ferrying cars around or waiting for somebody to come by to pick them up when the car breaks down. And also, 2016, this is consistent with the prior years, showing a planned replacement. And the only note is in 2021, the ACO car is basically sitting over at the safety of the garage because I guess we don't have an ACO officer. We don't have an ACO animal control officer.
I think they're using it for parts right now also.
Exactly. So my point is, it used to be the canine dog, and if you consider that with the heater on and the air conditioning on, depending on what the season, if you really like animals, especially dogs, you'd like the car. Anybody else would see it as a hazardous waste area. So frankly, the question is, at some point in 2020 or 2021, they would repurpose another car down for that position. Okay.
Jack, I'm looking at page 5. It seems that we're going to be replacing one a year indefinitely. Is that the concept?
Well, that's the plan that see, they asked for a 6-year plan, so that's his plan. Okay, we haven't judged him on that. That'll be next year for next year and 2 years for 2 years. But the intent is to get into a rotation.
Okay.
Now, whether that materializes in an approval from the CIP, I can't speak to that.
And 2023 and 2024, the amount goes down by roughly $20,000 because of a trade-in?
No. 2 principal reasons. One is trade-in, and 2, the chattel inside can be reused if it's a Dodge platform. So basically, the base car costs $26,000, and that's for a four-wheel drive, full-up police car without any lights, sirens, or equipment inside. That's just right from the vendor. So once you replace cars, you don't pay the $45,000. You pay just to replace the car and put some money in to haul the equipment over to the new vehicle. So part of that is trade-in, part of that is the fit-up because it's consistent.
None of the stuff we have currently in the old cars will fit in the new ones. They don't make a car that's...
Yeah, it doesn't fit. Most of the stuff's falling apart anyway.
Every year I think I've heard this, old stuff won't fit in the new car.
Well, if you keep a Dodge and you buy another Dodge, it should fit.
The way these cars change in size and design.
Right.
I was going to say,
And if you go from, before you could switch cages from,
Crown Vics to
whether it
Crown
be a
Vics.
Ford Crown Vic to a Chevy Caprice, and the light bars by getting different brackets. But now the way they've changed them and the interior's changed, you have to get them that are almost specific for that make and model, and with all the new electronics.
I'm just saying I've heard that every year.
Yeah, well,
for
they
10
change,
years.
but I mean, he should be able to, with these new cars, with the Dodges, to switch them.
Dodge to Dodge, it should be able to do it. And that's one of the selling points, because they want state police and all these other other municipalities to be able to reuse the equipment for cheaper upgrade. Next, I'm on Parks and Rec, and they basically asked for $19,000, and it's for engineering and architectural services, survey. And the purpose is, like on Quaker Street, Inison Field, there is a location for another, there is this area for another located ball field or some kind of a field. And also the Schmidt property, whenever that gravel gets mined out of there and on the site, that's the old gravel bank that'll be basically depleted. The intent is to use that for future ball fields. So the real question is coming up with a plan on how to, what the capability, what the current capability is, what the need is, and looking for the future of where the growth would be. So that's principally what that's about. Board of Selectmen, roof, 15 years plus, 15 plus years. The back side, which I think would be the south side, the best description I heard was it looks like potato chips up there. The curling typically is wear, and also it could be the manufacturer's issue too, as well as excessive heat buildup.
Isn't it unusual to have a 15-year roof? Aren't they supposed to be 30?
Well, who said it was 30?
When you buy shingles, aren't they normally 30?
You can buy 15 years if you want.
Do we have a guarantee on this?
I don't know.
We've already.
Let's put it this way. it's no worky at this point. It's gonna start leaking.
Yeah.
So, the question is, what side of the curb do you wanna be on? Buying umbrellas when it starts raining inside the building, or do you wanna have a roof on it? And I would say for all everything inside there, $65,000 preemptive strike, especially when you look at the roof. You can look at it and see that all the shingles are curled. And they're probably not even architectural shingles at the time. They were throated shingles. So, which means 3-tab. So no, I don't know if there's any warranty. If it is 15-year shingle, it's 15 years. $65,000, that includes not only the cost of replacing the shingles, it also includes the cost of the bituthane, which is the ice and water shield that's traditionally put on the first 6 feet. This is bid to do the entire roof. And the reason is because should we ever get a hurricane high wind and take the shingles off, it'll still be waterproof because it seals up after the shingles nails come out. So most everybody doing a house these days completely covers the roof. So this is all inclusive, and this is what the request from the select board is.
And it also includes putting,
Pardon me?
it also includes putting ridge vents in that.
Yeah, well, yeah, the other thing
There's no
is
ridge vents in that.
the adequacy of the ventilation. The shingle gets excessively cooked from the inside. I mean, you would expect to have a certain degree rise within the building. When it exceeds that, the shingles start to fail just because of the inadequacy of the venting. So today's standards for venting and what they did 15 years ago is a lot different. So, ridge vent, this doesn't have a ridge vent, I don't think. And it doesn't have really any serious gable vents on it, so. Public Works, 4 items. The first 3, the first one is a truck, yet again. And $215,000 is what's being requested, even though we got it done less than that this year. And I think it makes good sense to put the 215, anything that's not required will be turned back or be left in the capital reserve, I guess the way it would work. And so it's 215. Pretty straightforward. It's the same vehicle that was requested before. Hey, Benji, here's a guy talking about his vehicles. Have a seat. 215, because we have no cap reserve or any special revenues, it'll be 215 by taxes. And it'll be a 10-wheeler. It replaces T6. And for everybody's viewing pleasure, I have 5 pictures I took at the open house this spring. And this happens to be T3, the one that got turned in this year, right?
Yep.
What'd you get for it? 7,000?
Yep.
700?
7,000.
7,000. So, you can look at the condition, and, Benji and his team does a great job, but several times, 5 breakdowns in some storms this year?
Yeah.
Right. So, when you only have 11 trucks, or actually you have 11 trucks and you got 13 people, two
One's me and one's a mechanic.
mechanic, correct. Everybody's got a plow route, right?
Yep.
Things start breaking down, mechanics come in, people are sitting on the side of the road, you gotta tow the thing back. So a lot of people aren't plowing roads. They're getting paid, but they're not actually delivering the service. So this is a truck that was actually being used last winter. And these are the plows. You can see the holes, and you can see the back corner. Basically, that could be considered a safety issue for a load. That definitely. So, again, and I just want to point out, so 22 is this list of vehicles, so you have a schedule of hours. When you start approaching 10,000 hours, they start to become crusty from rust and wear an issue. So you can look at the number of vehicles that got 10,000 hours. There's easily 6 there. And the reason for that is if you turn on to page 24, you can see the town of Weare. Because the trucks in the town had Weare in the late 90s, a lot of them were state
bid.
state purchase, whatever. It got so bad that they had to basically buy 11 trucks in 11 years. Then the town took a hiatus for 6 years. You can see 2009 to 14. And then only 2015 did we started replacing. So it's basically looking forwards, 1 truck a year for 11 years. And then at the end of the 11 year, maybe 2024, whenever it is, the question becomes, do you run them out for another 6 years and have all these repairing issues, or do you decide to be on a rotational trade basis so you can actually get some money for the vehicle and not have all the repair bills and also the downtime and interruption to service? So for now, you'll see it on Benji's list, the intent is to go through and buy 1 a year. And when we're retiring vehicles of this, and there's more than one of these vehicles looking like this, that are still going to be plowing this year and next year before we even buy another truck. So we're behind, I would say, we're behind the power curve of replacing the vehicle fleet. We're hanging on 1 a year.
Well, nothing personal, but you know why, don't you? In 2009, nobody was making any money, so we didn't have any money to spend on trucks.
Well, I don't know.
I didn't vote for anything in 2009.
I think in 2009, they probably looked pretty good. And then you got to 2010, don't look too bad, and it wasn't a priority. Only when they got so bad that we start replacing them. So the question is, what side of the curve you want to be on? Today, unfortunately, we're behind the curve.
Yeah, I understand.
And we're only catching up one at a time. You want to get out in front of it, you buy 3 trucks in 1 year. We're not proposing that. Okay? That's the only way to do it. New Holland skid steer. This thing has been a favorite of the CIP for about 4 or 5 years and always get kicked out because it's like, we need a truck, we need a loader, we need a grader, or we need something else. So this, unfortunately, looks pretty good for a pretty poor looking piece of equipment. But this is principally used for recyclables in the transfer station. It's used every day. You pull the trailer out, you put another trailer up to the packer, all the stuff falls out, you gotta scoop it up. So this is basically a workhorse they use every day for moving stuff around. And it's $70,000, and we're recommending $20,000 be taken from the capital reserve fund to bring the price to $50,000 for out of taxes. Okay.
Wasn't this one or something like it that we had leased? We had an opportunity to buy it? The backhoe.
And the problem is, if this thing crashes and Benji needs to replace it temporarily, lease is 10% of the price per month. You can buy a vehicle for 10 months worth of lease. Is that correct? Thereabouts?
Yeah.
Within a year. If you pay a year's worth of lease, rent, long term, rent. Short-term rents, to get this for 10 months, you're gonna pay the whole price out in rent. So, I just make the point. So, I mean, these are considered to be reasonable requests. It may not be financially responsible, but I think in the CIP, from a position of need from the town and for him to run his business, this is what we request. Now, it's going to take a little time to go through the road reconstruction. Because
bridge improvement?
Huh?
You skipped bridge improvement.
Oh, is it? Did I miss it? Did I?
Skid steer you just spoke about. Bridge improvement is next for $105,000.
Yeah, I know, but have I missed a page?
Page 19. Yeah.
We're still 19.
Oh, I'm sorry. This is the third installment of 4. If I remember the numbers correctly, $2.1 million was going to be the price of replacing the $1.5 million for the River Road Bridge and $400,000, $300,000 for 2 culverts is $2.1 million. So the state will kick in 80% if they design the bridges and culverts, and we get in line with a plan basically for 2020 and 2021. And we're looking at to start on the bridges and culverts. So the thought was 20% of our share of $2.1 million is $420,000. The $420,000 was decided at least in the 2 years ago to put $105,000 away in the capital reserve for 4 years for the 420. So when we do come up and get ready to do this in 2022, 2021, we would have the money in place. We could typically go to the head of the line, or at least get in line ahead of people that don't have any money, and the state would consider doing that. So, again, asking for a third installment of 4 to do this bridge. Same item as last year.
Benji, if we didn't take the state aid, could we do it cheaper on our own?
Well, certainly not the River Road Bridge.
The others?
It hasn't been really looked into that close.
Because sometimes their requirements are so extreme.
Yep. But the River Road Bridge is a big concern. And we had a 5-year fix done 2 years ago now. And that's the only way in and out of River Road. So that's a $1.5 million project.
In no way that we could do it on our own for less.
Can you do it for 20% of the price? I don't think
River
so.
Road Bridge you couldn't do at all. That's an enormous span.
Certified span. You have to get it certified. Pay the engineering,
Okay.
construction,
Thank you.
Now, the one that's going to take a little bit of time and is the last one, and I put it last for the purpose of doing that. And basically, when you think of road reconstruction, it was a basket of money that Benji used for material purchases for summer roads. Okay? So, a lot of the things in the basket was crushing of gravel, typically used on rebuilding dirt roads, gravel grade roads. It was also to purchase the calcium chloride for keeping the dust control on. And these are done yearly. And also, it was also for some chip sealing, road preservation of $30,000. And the rest, the balance, out of the 480 that we usually raised, 408 was actually used for reconstructing roads. So $72,000 of that 480 is done for other things. It's just to put it in perspective. So the money that he uses for reconstructing and asphalting roads is $480,000. $280,000 of that we get as a grant back from the state. And you'll see the next page on 28. This is the highway block grant. We get this money in. I put this page in here so people understand how it's done and do we get our proper share. And my understanding is this information was done this year by the town for next year. So basically, for every class 4, which I only have one, but class 5 miles, $1,500. Every person residing in the municipality is $13. This winds up being $278,320. That's what we get for maintaining our roads from the state. It's the gas tax, is we basically get it back. Supposedly it's proportional, so who knows. But we raised 480. So we really only do the balance for taxes, which is roughly $200,000. So that's the tax hit from the 480. Let me just take you on the journey here. You kind of wonder why we have a lot of roads, and it's sort of determined on the number of people we had. Back in 1970, when I graduated, per the statistics, was 1,851 people in town. Today, at least in 2010, and I only took the 2010 number, it's almost five times the population. If we went to the 2015, it'll be a little bit more. But basically, we almost got 5 times the number of people in town. So where all those people live? Subdivisions, okay? And what's the quirk about the subdivisions? They're all built back, most of them in the 80s and 90s. And so these are coming up on the 30-year mark for a lot of these subdivisions. So what Benji and I did this year, I was basically the scribe, but Benji was the subject matter expert. We took his truck, and he fashioned the truck so that it measured feet on a readout. And we took 121 Class 5 asphalt roads in the town of Weare. We went through every one of them. There are 77 miles of those roads. We got them all broken out. I'll just ask you to look briefly. You'll see page 42, 3, and 4 is the list of 121 roads. Now, as we drove down the road, and Benji declared a change in the status of the road, we logged it and we considered it a different section. River Road, which is 8.5 miles long, has 7 distinct sections, each section requiring a different level of work or reconstruction. So every road has at least one section, some have more than one depending on the road condition. So if you add this all up, it comes out to be $7.6 million to repair the 121 miles of road with the respective sections. Let me take you through this journey a little further. Page 30, you can see that we've got 3 state roads in the town. This is not miles. We have Class 5 and 6. We have 67 Class 5 and Class 6 and private roads. 157 town maintained roads, and this includes the gravel roads, Class 5. And we have 1 Class 4, which is Center Street. The next slide on 31 basically says there's 121 distinct roads in the town of Weare that are Class 5 asphalt and 36 Class 5 dirt. We only concentrate on the asphalt roads. If you go look on page 32, just so everybody knows what we're kind of talking about here. This is a simplified cross-section of a road. There's a natural base at the bottom, which is basically you clean up everything as far as big rocks, boulders, make it as flat as possible before you start putting your compacted subgrade on it. Usually 6 inches deep. This is free of any organic material or reasonable rocks. You start bringing in your subbase, which is 3 minus gravel, and it's basically as deep as you need to make the profile of the road. Then when you finally get to the right level of that course, you put 6-inch depth of 12 minus, which is something you can grade and profile the shape of the road. Then when you're done with that, you compact all this, you put 2 inches of asphalt, 3/4 inch aggregate, 2 inches. There's your base binder coat. And then on top, the wear coat, which you normally drive over, you put 1/2 inch aggregate, 1 inch deep. So this is the 3-inch asphalt on top of a road. Now, when we talk about shim and overlay, we're talking about adding a shim on top of the very top tier. You put a tack layer down on top of that, so it's basically a different form of liquid asphalt to bind the 2 courses together, and you put 1.5 inches on top of that. We're talking about reconstruction. Essentially, Benji a typical case would be, you have a subdivision that had a reasonable base. It may not have been constructed to the right depth per se. It may not have the right quality gravel. It might have been round versus crushed. He'd go get this gigantic machine the size of this room, and they grind the whole surface, 18 inches down. Everything gets homogenized. And what you're left, pulverized, and what you're left is a reasonably decent base. And then you would add to it to the level to get the drainage you need. Then you go do your 6 inches on top of that crushed bank run, and you put your 2 inches in your 1 inch. That's called reconstruction. So just want to make sure people understood the difference between the two. Asphalt concrete is the stuff you typically think of, the black stuff you ride your car down on. And it's basically 5% of this processed asphalt, which is a residual of the distillation process for oil. You don't make this stuff as a standalone. It occurs naturally, but very small pockets. So you only get it as a residual of the oil demand. So it's a commodity, and it's volatile. So in other words, it can change prices from year to year, because basically half the price of the asphalt is 50% of the $60 a ton for asphalt is about $25 to $30 for the actual liquid asphalt itself. The stone else is the additional cost. So this is, just, so if we go on to page 34, you took the 121 roads and the respective sections of the sections that are red. Red means needs to be ground and rebuilt. Bogue Road is a perfect example of that. Etta Lane is another, these are all off Mountain School. Balch Hill Road. These roads are just terrible shape. And they were 30 years. And you could argue that the base material they used and the excavation depth of the sub-base maybe not been adequate. I'm not trying to cast aspersions because the specification you make on Class 5 roads for subdivisions today is entirely different than what was done in the past, even by specification. Even if the specification was the same, the inspections and the quality control may not have been as good as they are today, because you require engineers to come in and validate the subbase and everything else. So if you wanted to look at the miles of road, we got 8.3 miles of red road, which basically there could be a section of River Road, for instance. It's a section and we just added them all up. There is 15 miles of Y3, 1 through 3, which basically says if you do nothing, probably in 3 years, it's going to be red. Then you have the 4 to 6, which basically says if you do nothing, 6 years it's going to be red. And then yellow 9 is basically 9 years. And you have your green, which means it's probably good for a year or two before it turns to the Y, so to the Y9. So this basically degrades over time. It doesn't get better. So if you want to look at what we kind of notionally used as how to qualify a section of a road, it's basically green on the right-hand side on page 35. No defects, chip coat. You may chip coat it for later year preservation like you would on the Hodgson Road, as an example. As you start seeing a road deteriorate, the wear layer, the top inch, you'll start seeing it look like an alligator, reptilian skin, meaning it's got little cracks in it. And what's happening is the asphalt is drying out. It's a natural process, and it's an oil. And over time, it just dries out and starts cracking. You go to 6, you see some major defects. A lot of times you'll see where the tack wasn't done properly. You got sections of 1 inch that have come off the road. Looks like a very shallow pothole. That's because the top cap basically released. And you'll also see some other cracking, additional cracking. You go to yellow 3, this is where basically you start seeing vegetation grow up through the road. That means you've gone through not only the wear cap, but you're well into you're through the 2-inch binder coat. And this is a question of if the road is good enough that you don't have these ruts. If you put too heavy a load on a road, these heavy wheels will leave a rut over time, so it looks just like ruts or a gutter going down the middle of the road. That could be because the asphalt was faulty, or it could have been you overloaded whatever went on that road beyond the spec, or the gravel below was not adequate spec to hold up or wasn't compacted. So there's whole issues. This is where you start getting into the issue of you're probably pretty late. You can probably save some of these sections by shim and overlay, but by and large, they're going to become red. And so this is sort of how we did it. So there's no mystery how we did this. Now, looking at shim and overlay cost versus a mile of reconstruction. Basically, we're saying, we're assuming the road's 24 wide. And the reason we use 24 versus 22, because some roads are 24, a lot of roads are 22. When you go and do that shim and overlay, there's a little bit of a rut in the road. Well, it's going to use extra material for that, to fill that in. So it's like notionally 1.5 inches thick and any little depressions that happen in the road. To do a mile, 1,163 tons of asphalt to do 1.5 inches 24 feet wide, a mile long. $65 a yard. $65 a ton, nominal price. That's fully installed, requires no labor on his part, except for maybe a flagger, right? It's all done by contract labor. So if you keep that $75,000 per mile roughly, or 75.5. A mile of paved road, 24 wide, with, where you put 2 inches, is up to $100,000 a mile. So you can see the price if you decided to do 1.5 versus 2. We just give an example. It just bumps up. It's a linear function. The deeper it is, the more it costs. And it's pretty linear because it's the amount of material you're putting on the road. This is for the shim and overlay candidate roads, like the yellow, some of the yellow 3s, maybe 6s and 9s. If you have to go to total reconstruction, this is a nominal cost, includes any trees that have to remove, different culverts, drainage, reclamation machine work, that's the grinding of the road, shoulder gravel. The biggest cost you can see is buying 3 inches of asphalt. Now, all the labor that Benji uses to redo these roads in the summertime, it's paid for by the operating budget. That $480,000 is not paid for his labor, nor does it pay for the fuel, wear and tear on the vehicles, or the vehicles themselves. It's strictly buying material. So this is a material cost. If you went and hired somebody to do this, you'd be depreciating all their vehicles, paying them a profit, paying wages to people. So again, just remember this factor. If you can save a road doing 1.5 inch shim and overlay for another 10, 15 years versus letting it go to hell and have to pay 3 times the amount of money to bring it back to a wear surface, that's the opportunity cost here, is doing something timely so you're not paying 3 times the money to fix it. Unfortunately, Boga Road is over the cliff, right? And a lot of these other roads really are. Wallingford Terrace, what is the other one? I can't forget this.
Pine Hill.
Pine Hill.
Yeah, exactly. So there's a bunch of these roads, and so if they're reasonable length, mean like a 1/4 mile long, they're probably all the same. Some long roads like River Road would be multiple sections because it was done at different times. So if you looked at the pricing, if you wanted to fix, let's say you had $7.6 million next year, okay, and you want to fix all these roads, well, you would have enough money, but the problem is Benji can only really execute about $500,000 worth of road reconstruction. Why? He has a finite number of people, finite number of equipment, length of time in the summertime to do it. So that means if you're going to eat this elephant, you're only going to take a chunk. If you say you're going to do all the red ones first and put no money in anything else, you can only burn $500,000. So it's going to take you 4 years to get the red ones done. Okay? And while that's happening, all these Y3s are already red again. Time moves this way. So there's a question of, we've got a large amount of work ahead of us if we want to have the roads back at some point to a reasonable condition. So there's a scheduling and a time factor to this spending of the money. We couldn't spend $7.6 million because you can't do all that work in 1 year. We could certainly buy the asphalt, but you can't put the asphalt on before you got the road reconstructed. So you got a scheduling issue here. If we go to the next page, this gets into a question of, currently we raise $480,000 a year. That's what we've been doing for the last year, 2 years maybe. And we bumped it up from $460 and $500 a few years before that. And state funding against that is $780, which is roughly $200,000 left raised by taxes. Okay? We currently have that in the budget today as a warrant article for reconstruction. So if you want to say how long you want to solve this problem and recognize that in 10 years some of those green roads are going to be red or at least turning very dark yellow. So if you took Today, raising $480,000 a year would take us 20 years or 19 years to do the work at today's rate, assuming no increase in asphalt cost. Okay? Because that's a commodity, it can go up. It probably can come down, but I'd be banking it's going to go up. So if you decided to raise $650 a year, it would take 13 years to pay for this. If you decided to raise $750 a year, it would take 11 years to do it. If you wanted to do it $850 a year, and the bump for the amount the town would raise additional by taxes is $170, $270, and $370. So we kind of give, and we kind of picked, Benji recommended and we agreed, that $750 a year would bring us in 11 years as probably the longest you could stand to do it. And let's suggest you're emotionally okay with the $750 if you want to go off and rebuild these roads. Then there are two options you can do. And I'm not sure if the town has any palate for this, but the option one is just raise $750 a year by taxes. That means you can only do the amount of asphalt, and you technically can't save the roads from all roads from deterioration because you can't cover them all. The second side option two is raise $500 a year by the warrant article and recommend a bond for year one next year, 2019, for 2.5. The money's practically the same. The benefit is, and I go through the pros and cons here, the benefit is Benji can basically use around $500,000 a year. Any more than that, he needs more machinery and more people. Okay? So that kind of makes why the 500 is reasonable. The 2.5 million, which is really 10 years of 2.5, basically the same costing except for like $200,000 worth of interest over that period of that 10-year loan. You can actually call up and schedule in the next 2 years and buy $2.5 million worth of shim and overlay and cover all the roads that are deteriorating every year to bring them up to green so that you're not falling into this 3-time cost when you go into road reconstruction. But this requires a bond, 3/5 vote versus I mean, this is really the essence of the discussion right here. It's a question, do you these 2 pages, do you believe we need to raise $750 based on the evidence presented? Then the question is, if you agree to do that, what is the best for the town? Now, getting a bond approved is tough. You need 60% to pass. And we have not had great success in 1 year passing any bond we have done. So, we're not going to make a recommendation for CIP for which option. We're saying one of these has got to be done. The problem is, this is all about how you put in the warrant article. If you put $750 in a single warrant article and it fails, Benji's only got $278,000 to spend from the state. You don't have the balance of that money. So he's got people twiddling their thumbs all summer because they have nothing other than mowing grass and digging ditches. So the real problem here is, do you put a 480 up and put a second one for the balance, $270,000 to be raised by taxes, which gives you the difference between 480 and 750? One passes, the other one might not. Or you put the 500 there and try for the bond for the 2.5, so you can nail within 2 years all the roads that will accept shim and overlay and stop the deterioration of those roads. I don't have a good answer, but those are the options. I mean, from a corporate perspective, if I was presenting this before the board, or if I was being presented by people to me, if they didn't have option 2, somebody would be leaving the room, because you're not buying down the risk. Option 2 buys the risk down. The cost of buying the risk down is the cost of the bond interest, $230,000, $229. But you've worked the numbers here. What if the price of the asphalt goes up to $80 a ton in the future years? You will pay more than $229K for that extra money. So you can lock in, and one of the things that is probably on the national level is a infrastructure legislation, which means roads, which means there's only so much asphalt, liquid asphalt made. Now the question is going to become a demand this year. We could drive the price up of liquid asphalt, which is 50% of the cost of asphalt. Even though it's 5% of the weight, it's 50% of the cost. So there's a big opportunity for asphalt prices over the next 10 years to go up. Go ahead.
First, an observation. I think you picked 11 years because you can do the red and the yellow 1 through 3 at $500,000 a year. That takes 11 years to get those two categories done.
No. We did 11 years because 750 is roughly into 7.6 million, 10 years. 11.64.
If you took the 500,000 out of that, you can get the red and yellow.
Yeah,
Anyway.
But you're going to have more red and yellows moving to the right.
At the same time, you get the 250,000 extra, you get the Y6 and the Y9s done, all in 11 years.
Well,
the money works, never mind.
Right.
The asphalt prices are going to go up.
Your argument...
They're directly related to oil. They're going to fuck
your argument is the 750?
I wasn't making an argument.
Well, it is. Your position is 750. 750.
Yes.
That's without the bond. That's what you would do.
I'm just saying 750.
Right. 750
however you get it.
Right. Well, option one is asking for a bond, asking for a warrant article of 750. That's exactly what you do. Spend the 500 for doing whatever roads you can, and take the other 250.
Yes. Right. However you get the 750, it works out the 11 years. It takes care of all that.
Notionally, you are correct.
And the asphalt prices are just, they're going to fluctuate like crazy.
Well, what I'm trying to say is, if you go with a bond option, you do two things. You fix the price of the asphalt. Do it all in 1 year. You fix it in 1 year.
Okay.
For the shim and overlay money, the 2.5. And you stop the deterioration of those roads that you would otherwise have to wait for. So that's the trade-off. Now, maybe an option for a bond is not in the cards. I understand that. I felt it was necessary to bring these two things forwards. And somebody at the select board will have to, and the finance committee can make a decision, or maybe you guys too. I'm just saying, they're here. There are other sub-options you can do, but these are the two big ones. Pay it by the drink each year, or option two, pay by the drink for $500,000, take a bond for $2.5 million, and buy the asphalt up in 2 years. I know. My crystal ball isn't that good. So this is the principal issue: is the roads have problems. Benji took the time, and I was there for the ride, and he profiled the roads, meaning started out at some starting point, drove forwards until it looked like it changed status, and then logged it as being one of these conditions, then go to the next one until it changed status and determine what that is. For River Road, it was seven sections, 8.5 miles. Some roads, like High Street out here, is only 400 feet long, but it's a road. So that's sort of the big issue. And like I say, if anybody's interested, you look at page 42, 43, and 44, and you'll see every road listed, the length of the road and the length of the sections, and the back end here is the total feet. So it'll take 90,000 tons of asphalt by the time you spend $7.6 million. Like 4,500
Jack,
10-wheelers.
This chart seems to be only for paved roads.
You got it.
The unpaved are not here because we're not doing anything with them, with asphalt.
Right. Correct.
And is there something missing? It skips
Oh, I didn't check that.
From 43 to 44, you go from Hatfield Road to Reservoir Drive.
Well, let's see if we got it. I didn't do this. Oh, we got a double on page 43. I think we're missing. See 43?
Oh, yeah, that's what
We're
it is.
missing some, we're missing a page.
43 should be a different,
Yes, it is. Somehow, I don't know if that happened when they did the printing. Are they all the same?
Yep.
Then the database must be wrong.
42 and 43 are the same.
Okay, we can fix that. Good catch. Yeah, the centerpiece of the roads are missing. The center of the alphabet is missing. So,
should have different road names on it.
the last page
44 does.
is kind of the, I mean, if everybody knew what I was talking about and I knew what I was talking about, we could have just jumped to the back page. But it's not that easy. So the back page is, in essence, if you look at this, long-term debt, which are typically bonds, short-term debt, which is usually Cushman leases, municipal leases. Then we go the total, long and short-term, and the, I guess it'd be called orange color. And then this year, every capital request we've got, and it says total budget plus capital expenses, offsetting revenues such as ambulance, revolving fund, the special revenue fund, and what else? Oh, this grant money from the state and any in that form. And then funded by property taxes, this amount here, 1.19. And then if you got all of these things asked for minus the offsetting revenues and capital reserves, it would be for all debt, including early debt, $1.38. And last year was $1.02. To rationalize that 300 and some odd $1,000, it's the extra $270,000 for the road reconstruction. We lost $77,000 off up top because of paying off the ambulance, and it kind of makes up for the skid steer. So most of this is, and the $19,000. So you take the ones that aren't the same as last year. We bought a car last year, bought a truck last year. The chief's purchases are off the table because it's offset by special revenues. So it's basically last year tax impact for capital assets and the payment debt from the previous bond and leases was $1.02. This year, principally driven by the $270,000 extra for the road reconstruction. So you want to know why it went up. This is sort of the bottom line scorecard. Everything else before that is sort of rationalization. So
If you promise not to change the numbers for the next 4 years, I'll go along with this year.
next 4 years?
Yeah, leave those exactly the way they are.
Wouldn't I be magic about that? I would have known the Red Sox the Patriots would have beat
Hey, watch it.
Now,
Don't go there.
Jack, these numbers assume that we bond or do not bond?
No, the 750 and the 500 and 225 are separate. It's like either raise money for 10 years to 750 or 500 a year and a bond for 10 years. The difference between the two is you're exposed more for risk of deterioration just raising the 750 a year of the roads because you ain't got to them yet. It's going to take 9 years to get the last one. And the volatility in the oil prices. Okay?
So what would this number be for 19 if we went with the bond?
Oh, it'd be up 200, okay, yeah, that's a good point. I actually don't have that page. But the bond interest rate on $2.5 million, this actually be half of that because it's only 6 months in 19, but let's just pretend it's the whole year. It'll be 1.875% of 2.5 million, which.
But don't we have to repay the principal back?
Yeah, you do. But I'm saying that's the cost. You're still gonna be the principal if you get the $750 a year. I'm telling you, the cost for 10 years of debt service note is $229,000. So, if you wanna know, you gotta pay $250,000 on the bond, and you gotta pay interest on 2.5 million, which is $50,000, right? 2% of 2.5 million. So, you pay $50,000 and then you'll be down $250,000 in 2020, because you only pay on the principal outstanding. Every year it goes down $250 on the bond, and you pay the interest. So, interest drops over the year. The debt service for the principal stays even, and the interest drops down. And if you accumulate the 10 years of interest, it's $229,000 over 10 years. But I'm suggesting that would be less money than having to do road reconstruction on roads that further deteriorate at 3-to-1. 3-to-1 price, from 75 to 225. And the price of oil fluctuating. And not only that, but the demand for liquid asphalt, which is a byproduct of the fractional distillation of a barrel of oil. Basically, you boil a barrel of oil, the gasolines come off first, lower temperature boiling. They come off first, then comes the kerosene, then comes the heating oils, and the various other motor oils. And then we're left with this sludge at the end that nothing else boils off after 305 degrees. That's liquid asphalt. And whatever's in the bottom of the tank, that gets pumped out and gets sold as liquid asphalt. So it isn't like you can say, I want to buy some more liquid asphalt. There's only so much. And if the demand is more for the road reconstruction for a infrastructure through Congress, let's say they come up with $1 trillion, a lot of that's going to be buying asphalt, bridges, roads, airports, highways, you name it. And also maybe having a plan like this, at least we got the plan. Maybe we can get a chunk of that money if we can get a grant.
So your recommendation to us is to bond it?
My personal professional recommendation, being an executive, would be I would throw somebody out of the office or the conference room if they didn't come with the option for 2. And if I came up without an option of 2 to the board of directors, they would throw me out. It makes so much sense. It buys the risk down. It's practically the same money. I don't make light of $229,000, but again, 7.5 million. It's a very small piece. It's like 3%. So the leverage is, see, the question is, can you, because statistically over the last 5 years, we got between 73 and 77% approval at the warrant article for the 480. So there is some strength of people were okay at $480,000. We were getting between 72 and 77% yeses. Now the question is, I have no modeling if that went up to 750. Problem is, here's the dilemma. You put 750 in, because that makes sense, without the bond, and it fails. He only gets $280,000 from the state. And he's going to be twiddling his thumbs with his folks who he can spend that all on asphalt, and you have the summer off. See, this is the problem. It isn't like you're dealing with a corporation when you go to the board and you make a recommendation. They say, yes, we're going before the town. We're putting the best thing in front of the town and hoping they would pass it. So maybe the safest bet is 750, but the most practical bet is $500 a year plus the $2.5 million bond. But see, that's why I say there's 2 options. I don't pretend to know which one's going to make it. The one I would recommend personally is the option 2. I don't know if the select board can sell that. You know what I'm saying? Or the finance committee will agree to it, or any of it. So the question is, Benji and I had this discussion back in April. We thought it was important to do the analysis. So we're not making these numbers up. We're making these numbers up, but there's there's probably 1,000 little lies in here that have to be a truth. You add up the numbers, and it equals this, $7.6 million. We're relying on his domain subject matter expert, domain experience to make these judgments. Now, he's off a little bit on one, maybe under another. We think it's pretty close. And if you need less money in the future, you don't raise 500 in the future per year, because he won't have anything to do. And most of that 500 in the future will be, 2/3 of that will be asphalt. Because of the 225 for road reconstruction, 150 of it is asphalt. So it's almost all asphalt that we're talking about here.
So under Plan B, it's $225,000, $229,000 a year in debt service?
No, total 10 years of interest. The way a bond works is, the way I understand the bond to work, I'm sure there's 50 different ways. Simple municipal bond is, you want 2.5 million first year? Thank you very much. Give me 2% of that, $50,000. And oh, by the way, I want the $250,000 one increment, 10-year increment. 250 for the principal, 50 the first year for the interest for borrowing 2.5. Next year comes along, principal is 2.25. I want 2% of that plus the 250. So you get this drop in the, that's the actual borrowing money. You cumulate up those 10 years, it's $229,000 for borrowing 2.5 million for 10 years. You pay back the 2.5, and over time you pay back a total of $229,000. So it's less than 10%. It's like 9% service, because you're only paying, I mean, the other thing is about the bond is 1.875 money is pretty damn cheap. Where else can you get that? You can buy your asphalt for future years this year and put it down in year one. You're paying a carrying cost of that is 1.875%. Pretty good. That's pretty good business. You can't make that profit typically. So, I don't know. I mean, the need is there for the road reconstruction. I think we've categorized what it needs to be. And the only two options, well, there's multiple options, but two significant options is increase the $480 a year to $750. That's a $270,000 increase by taxes. That's the simple end. Or break it into thirds. Take the $500 each year, because Benji can spend that, because you just be having the money sitting in the bank, him not spending it. Or, and I should say, take a bond so you can do most of the work of the Sherman overlay in the first 2 years. Then you basically reset a lot of the roads back to green.
Well, I know in the last,
Pardon me?
I know in the last 10, 12 years I've been on the board, every year the CIP comes in, and every year we don't have enough money for the roads. So
Well,
there's no doubt we need something different than.
But I'll
what
be
I made.
honest with you, the reason we didn't do it, because $450,000 when I started the CIP, everybody was scared to death we wouldn't get it.
I know.
So we bumped it to 460 saying, let's see where the sensitivity level is, and it went through. Then we said, let's throw it to 480. And hey, we still went through. Nobody dared putting the digit 5 in front of it, 500,000. So the only reason we're doing this, because we had a discussion in April, what do the roads look like? And the answer was, it's just opinions. So I said, well, let's go really come back with something that we can show. And we know what real cost is, $225 for a mile of road. He does it every year. He knows the numbers, and it got some assumptions in there. And for asphalt, $65 a ton. It takes 1,164 tons per mile per 1.5 inches, 24 feet wide. There's no magic. So
Well, what I was trying to say is, I think we all know something has to be done.
we've underserved the roads as an
Yes,
asset.
for years.
And oh, by the
Years.
way, it's the biggest asset in the town we have.
If we go with the bond, do we need 2/3, 60 or 60%?
60%.
60%.
Well, I understand it to be 60. I rely on Beth for that.
3/5.
3/5. But, we've been getting support of 72 to 77% over the last 5 years. I asked Beth to figure that out from the.
If it means anything, I know the town of Londonderry, Bedford, Amherst, those are three I know of right off the top of my head. In the last 5 years, we've done a bond for the roads. Bedford's done 3 of them.
Well, and temporarily.
Because they can't
Yeah.
doing the same thing we're talking about. They couldn't catch up.
Right, but here's the problem with the town of Weare. 1970,
Okay.
1,800 people. The roads we use as collector roads or commuter roads now. What is that? We just finished them. Mountain School. They used to be little paths through the woods and nobody lived out there.
Well, the same thing was similar everywhere.
Exactly. So the roads that were just town roads in 1970 are now commuter roads with heavy traffic. And all these subdivisions, we would still have some work to do if they were built to today's specs. But we can't go back and crank the time back and fix that. So we're stuck with these subdivisions that are at the 30-year level. So it isn't like they failed in 10 years. This is just about at the limit before you need to do shim and overlay. But the problem is, you'd be wasting your money putting any shim and overlay on Bogue Road. You need to grind the whole thing, tear it up, and put it back. Then you put your 3 inches of asphalt on top. So, I mean, I wouldn't expect the town to kick themselves too much for missing the opportunity. It crept up on us because most of these roads that are demanding the total rebuild are 30 years old, and they're subdivisions.
Or they're older than that.
I mean,
Or they're older than that.
it could be because, yeah, but most of it happened in that window. So it's sort of like the 30-year roof is 30. You know, it really was a 20-year roof, the 15. Now we're at 30, and you really got to do something. So then the question becomes, and I don't envy Benji for this, but let's go back to page. My last comment. This was kind of glossed over. Or I glossed it over. Let's go to page 40. Maybe we have a lottery of which roads get done first, you know. But we at least had a discussion about what roads typically fit the class of, and I use the word such as, because it was not exhaustive. Here are some roads that are considered to be commuter roads, which is a body of traffic that travels every day. Then you have your subdivision, then you have critical roads, which tend to be the subdivision roads, which were done years ago. So the real question is, if you get your first block of money, who are you going to make happy? I mean, that's a different issue. I mean, the Bogue Road people are in here, you know, making their opinion known, and we've gone up there, and it's terrible. I mean, you can't make it up, but, you know, would they be number one? Or would they be the first year? And you got to kind of cut this up because you don't want to do 2/3 of a road. You know, you got to have to fit these into how much.
That's his problem. That is
I know,
not,
but
that is not this board's problem.
correct,
That's
but I'm
Jack?
just saying that. But there's another issue.
But Jack,
People say-
this only applies if we go with the 250,000 extra, or 270 extra. If we,
No, you're missing the point.
if we bond, this doesn't apply.
Yes, it does.
How's that?
Because these roads are disasters. They have to be spending the $225,000, which is part of the $500,000. The $500,000 is the road reconstruction. That means grind them up. He can only spend $500,000 a year because he only has so many trucks, so many months. The roads you will be able to give some protection to are the yellow 6s and 9s and some of the 3s. And I say some of the 3s because if you can get to them quick enough, you might be able to save them before they turn red. See, the 500 a year.
These are red roads.
No, these could be
Basically, he can do 2 miles a year. And
effectively.
we got 23 miles of what road you need.
Yeah, he can do 2 miles a year at $500,000. Okay, who wants to be the lucky person? It would take 4 years to do River Road if it was in absolute worst case. Well, it isn't. I'm just saying. So the question becomes, he can only spend so much money, so he'll only raise so much money for road reconstruction. That's the $225,000 a mile cost. That's for him grinding the road, relaying the gravel, hauling the gravel, building it up, reshaping the gravel, then call in the asphalt company to put 3 inches on. That's what he can do a year. 2
With the
miles.
500,000.
Or 2 miles. If you got that block at 2.5 million, you could take care of the ones that are capable of a shim and overlay and stop the deterioration and buy down the future cost increase of asphalt. Because you can spend it within 2 years.
Basically, he chips away at the red and yellow 1 to 3.
Correct. And if there's some
And
yellows,
500,000 and
some
shim
yellows
over-
will be put back to
Right.
green by the shim and overlay.
Right.
Some just will never be because they're like almost over the cliff, you know? But we just grouped this into 5 groups. And by the way, you can look in here, and these prices are all priced by feet, the condition, and that's why I laid the condition out. So if you see red or Y3, it's $250, $225 a mile. Well, I don't know what the price per foot is, but, and if you see yellow 6 and yellow 9, it's 75,000. This is the tough one.
Why not have a bond for 7.6 million and do
Why would you
all
want
of
to
the
take your
roads?
money when he can't spend it? Why do you want to carry a debt on let's say you can only spend $500,000. You can't buy the asphalt until he's got the road ready. So you don't pile up asphalt in your backyard, waiting 9 more years to spread
The
it.
total cost of road reconstruction includes more than asphalt, doesn't it? It includes his time and labor.
No, that
Oh.
is part of the operating budget. His labor
Materials
force,
This is materials
his
only.
equipment cost, his fuel cost, his everything else but buying material cost is covered by the operating budget. The operating budget covers the total year. This is only material, whether it's gravel, whether it's culverts, whether it's guardrails, or asphalt. You could stockpile culverts, you could stockpile guardrails. You wouldn't want to stockpile gravel, you'd buy it when you want it. Nor would you want to go have a bunch of asphalt delivered here, because you can't do anything with it. You put it out, because you wouldn't want to pay somebody to haul it in here.
I'm on page 37. The bond then would cover yellow 4 to 6 and yellow 7 to 9?
I'm going to say it this way, I know you are.
Yes.
I'm going to say, 37? I'm going to say, for the ones in yellow 3 that are capable of accepting shim and overlay, you're going to do them first to prevent getting to be red. Some of them can be saved. If you wait 6 years, you're not going to get there, temporal aspect. And then you go as far as you can, hopefully do all the 6s and not all the 9s
With the bond?
with the bond. See, the whole issue of the bond is, he can contract a lot of asphalt if you know about it in your head, right? So you could say, I want 100,000 tons of asphalt. And they'll say, you really? They said, yeah, we got the money. And they'll set it up, and they're gonna have to get a block at time and equipment. I'm being facetious, but they can bring a lot of asphalt in because they got the batch plants, they got the trucks, they got the machines, and they got the people. You just decide to get in a line and do your road here versus going over to the next towns. So you gotta compete for some of that time, but basically, it's a commodity you buy, right? You gotta get in line, but if you got the bond, that's why I say you can do this in 2 years. Because some of those roads that are probably Y6, maybe there's a faulty culvert in there that has to be fixed. You don't wanna do that before you asphalt this, so. But principally, most of these roads are just turnkey where you bring in the asphalt. Like if he had this summer, $2 million, most of these 2 yellows here will be gone, some of these will be gone. We only be talking about the left-hand columns. I know it's a lot to throw on you guys at one night, but that's why I took.
Okay.
so
How
many
much would it cost if we bonded all of the yellow 7 to 9, all of the yellow 4 to 6, and as many of the yellow 1 to 3?
2.5. That's what I did.
Okay.
Well, maybe 2.6. The reason I did what I did is I wanted to keep the total money, irrespective of cost of money, at the same, 7.5, 7.5. 500,000 times 5 years is 5 million. 250 for 10 years is 2.5, total of 7.5. So basically, what you just said is what the intent is.
Some of those might be the the lower impact yellow and green, the 4 to 6 and the 7 to 9. Some of those could probably be crack sealed.
Yeah.
Switches even
It could
cheaper.
probably be chip coated, a little cheaper.
Chip coated.
Some might.
Cheaper. Yeah. I mean,
And that's why
I
we
know
didn't
that-
ask for the $2.8 million.
I know that if you can do that, that's cheaper and it can
It's
extend,
30,000
them
miles.
another 5 to 10 years, some of them.
30,000 mile versus 75,000 mile. So there are some decisions to be made.
What's the trade-off?
Well, you probably cure a lot of ills by putting 1.5 inch shim and overlay, and you're just putting a Band-Aid on for the chip coat.
Take right down Hodgson Road, you see what the chip coat is.
Yes, I
Some of
know.
them you chip
But I
coat.
don't know how long that's going to last.
Nobody does.
Depends on the road, 5 to 10 years.
Supposed to give me 8 to 10 years.
It's a life
Depends how bad the road
extension.
was.
And if you shim
Well,
coated
it
it?
was real good. See,
Yeah,
I
it was
wouldn't do
good.
things to a road that I wasn't confident had a good base.
Right.
And if you
I know most of the roads, I know how, I built Hodgson Road, so I know I could gravel. And
if you
do something. that
if you
makes
shim
sense.
coated Hodgson, how long would it last compared to chip coat?
Probably 10 years before you need to.
So they're pretty close.
10, 12 years.
No,
No.
no. It's gotta be significantly different. We wouldn't be having this discussion.
Well, that particular road wasn't in terrible shape. You know. So take Reservoir Drive. Reservoir Drive was far beyond a chip coat, but it has good gravel on it. I shimmed and overlaid it last year and this year, and I hope to get 10 to 15 more years out of it. I'm confident that we will.
And what would it take, or would you ever consider hiring some of the red roads? Since you can only do 2 a year, would it pay to bond some of that and
At
do
3
more than
times the
2 a year?
price. At 3 times the price, you gotta pay the guy's labor, his wear and tear on his trucks,
Yeah.
Price can go
his
down.
profit
Yeah.
of 15%, maybe.
You gotta have a grinder come in.
The reason it's so cheap doing this is because he has a finite work crew available, which is already paid for in the tax base, okay? And he has equipment that's already paid for, and his fuel for the whole summer is already figured out. So if you can get a contractor to work for only material costs, which I doubt you will, then you're not gonna be as good as this guy. That's why nobody's asking for 5 more trucks, 5 more people. You know, we're not asking for that. We're trying to keep the infrastructure the same, but yet take advantage timely what we can do and what we need to hire out. And the thing that needs to be hired out is the asphalt. We don't make it here. We don't even spread it. Well, not very well anyways.
No.
But that means we're still going to have a heck of a lot of red roads in this town for almost forever.
No. If you take the bond, buy down the risk, cap these roads,
Yep.
you now have generated a lot of green roads on top of the existing green roads. So you have stopped the insanity, so to speak. Okay? Then you put your yearly labor on $500,000 to whittle away these. The red ones aren't gonna get much worse or much better. They ain't gonna get any better. They could even get worse because all of a sudden now you'll have a gravel road. So
It's still gonna take 10 years to do the rest.
it's gonna take 10 years, and that's why the 7.5 million wasn't picked. It was derived from the condition of the road. We picked $750 a year for 10 years because you wanna wait more than 10 years? Probably not, because you're gonna have more red roads.
If you knock down the yellows,
Right.
then you're not adding to the red list. You're not, the red list is, yeah, and that's one of the biggest things.
The red roads will be terminal, meaning there'll be those that are starting the process, deterioration, will be halted. And a lot of these roads, beyond just the surface, it's like you'll see, well, Gould Road was an example. You see the road had these ruts in it, where the weight of the trucks have just crushed the gravel down, And that needs to be shim and overlay.
River Road, south end.
River Road.
is
Piece of it,
prime-
yeah, the
prime-
south side.
Prime example of that.
Correct.
I know that, just for Neil's certification, because I already got told this, Allstate's coming in to give us a
Yeah, and I-
talk on this, to actually explain. Allstate Asphalt's coming in to give us a talk on this. I went to a meeting with them and begged them to come
We
and
did
explain
shim
it.
overlays on the river and reservoir the last 2 years. And I think proof's in the pudding. You know, the chip code is for roads that aren't to that point yet, just extends the wearing course.
That would be an emerging
Take a
yellow.
line on and make it a green again, or keep a green a green.
Okay. Jack, on page 45, once again, is there any bond money in here?
No, no.
Is there any road reconstruction money in here?
750. Look at the 750 line.
Which line is that? And so that's an increase of roughly 270 from the current level. And that's
So-
going to continue
so
for 10 years.
If the bond was considered, and assuming the whole year, it won't be, practically be 6 months, but the whole year would be $50,000 to carry the debt, or
Which isn't in there.
2.5
Debt
million,
service isn't in there for that.
for the first year.
It's on the other.
So if we have the bond, would you lower the 750?
Yes, to 500. That's the whole point. You would lower the bond to 500, that's what he can consume annually, and you would be able in 2 years to spend the bond money to buy down all the risk on the yellows.
Would it make sense for you, when you present this to the selectmen, to show that as an option?
Well, I can make two, yeah, I can do two of them.
Yeah.
I didn't have a problem. See, I didn't, I could have come up with 50 more charts. I had to stop somewhere, but I'm happy to redo that chart with a bond.
I'd not redo it, redo
Yeah,
it, but
do
then,
that.
put both of them in, so the selectmen see option A and option B.
It's,
One and two.
one is $50,000 more than the other for the debt for year one. That's what it winds up being. I could put a line in there, bond debt, and put 0 for 750.
Right.
And put the other one, put the debt service and the interest, 250 and 50, 300,000.
You'd still have to put in 500,000 or 480, wouldn't you, for road reconstruction?
500.
Okay.
2018 had 480 in it.
Okay.
So, I mean, that's probably the most toughest nut to crack on. What can you sell, and how do you sell it? You know, because you don't want to put 750 and then wind up with 0. You want to put 480 in there and then ask for 270 in a separate one? And at least you might get 270.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know how to do this. I mean,
Plus what you get from the state, so.
right. So I'm happy to work any numbers you want, but that's basically where I think the town, I mean, probably, the CIP has matured over the years as far as, handling these things, and I think this all kind of came at once this year, so.
Okay, if I take the 270 away from the 1,193,000, I come up with 924, which compares with the 873 from 18.
What do you mean 873? Get on the bottom line.
On the bottom line, amount funded by property
bottom,
tax.
right down the bottom, bottom. See the finger? Move your finger.
Yeah?
Yeah, that's 18, equal to the 1.36 is the 1 point, whatever the hell it is. That bottom line is apples to apples, including the debt service. Okay? See, the 138,
This is the green line?
no, the bottom line.
The brown
Tax
line?
impact.
No, the bottom. Throw your fingers there. Right there.
866?
There we go. No.
Buck 38.
What's this line right here?
Yes.
That is how many dollars you get per 1,000. This is what we're raising for this year, including the debt. This is what we equivalently raised last year, including the debt. $1.02 for last year, $1.38. The difference between these two is 270, 19, and one other number, 62,000 for the roof. That's it. So, The difference between those two numbers on the very bottom line is those 3 issues. And we're not paying for 1 year, no, we weren't anyways, so that's correct. We weren't paying for the ambulance anyways. So it's the 1965 and 270 is the difference. I will make that, I'll fix and include that page. Page 2 got lost somehow. And for the spreadsheet. And I will do a separate sheet as if we're doing the bond. So it'll be listed option 1, option 2.
Mr. Chairman, do we need to vote to recommend?
Yes. First, I want to thank you, both of you.
Thank Benji.
No, I said both.
He's the one who works for
I
us.
said both of you. Took a lot of work for me to do those. Awful lot of miles to drive.
Make a motion to recommend the CIP plan for 2008-19 to the selectmen.
Would you consider changing that so we're recommending the bonding aspect rather than what he's presented here, which is the non-bonding aspect?
You could accept the package and condition it with option 2. Because that leaves option 1 out.
I would recommend that we support the bonding option for the road reconstruction.
So the motion is to recommend this plan to the selectmen with the bonding option for road reconstruction.
Correct.
Second.
Discussion.
I don't think we should recommend it with just one, because if one, I think we still have to test the waters. I don't want to see
That's
us.
up to you guys to decide.
Yeah, well, we can, I guess, this board can do that. It's gonna come before
I was gonna say
the other board, and then we'll have to hash it out.
It's up
But if
to
you take it out without
it's up to the
option
selectmen
1 and just leave it with option 2, then that doesn't come.
They don't pay attention to recommendations most of the time.
Yeah, we're just,
The ultimate decision is up to you guys, it's just that's
Yeah.
what we're gonna recommend.
okay. I agree with you. I think the
All in
bonding
favor?
issue's the way to go, at least.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Unanimous.
Thank you.
Unanimous.
Thank you.
Neil, are you on the
Benji, while you're
finance
here,
committee?
We have
I'm on the finance
we have a
committee.
sidewalk
Keep it
Sunday.
Oh, yeah.
10.
You're not gonna get another.
Extra one to-
I always said you're not
Yeah, well,
getting
yeah, let me have that.
another. Okay, thank you.
Worley Road
Thanks, Jack.
for that driveway. For that driveway that they're talking about. So, FYI.
All right,
Sunday at 10, we're gonna have a little sidewalk, I think.
yeah, all right, okay, yeah.
If not, you can meet me tomorrow and I'll do it with you at 8, because I'm not gonna be around Sunday.
Laying around excavator tomorrow, but I didn't finish today. It's been so wet in the woods, I haven't been able to cut trees for a month.
Yeah.
I'll try to make it Sunday.
Well, before you leave, I gotta see you about something.
Oh,
Before you leave, I'll have to see you about something. Stick around for a minute.
hope so.
And the subdivision roads, we did knock down the low volume number from 150 trips a day to 100 trips a day. So I know we didn't give you your 22, but we did cut down the traffic. So you're
Yeah,
only gonna have 10 houses to worry about.
yeah. 22 would have been
If
much
it's,
better.
if it's snowing that much, nobody's gonna be out there anyway.
You wouldn't think so.
Not on those 10 houses,
You'd be
no.
amazed at people, they gotta go get milk. and it's not-
Okay,
There is one more item on the agenda.
there is.
Really? Yeah.
Oh, yeah, so we got someone with a last minute conceptual.
These conceptuals come in last minute, you know?
Are you serious?
Yeah, I'm flipping down.
I'm gonna have
Oh, man.
I'm gonna have to excuse myself. I've got a young man out there I gotta take home and put to bed, so.
Oh, he's with you, I thought it was with Ben.
Well, that's
No.
good. Now, you do that. Now we
We
can't,
don't have a
we don't have a quorum. We can't
got
listen to
three.
him. No, we got 2. He doesn't count now. He's recusing himself.
Conceptual, it's all non-binding anyway.
I gotta
You
get
wanna hear
him
it.
home. He's
You
got
wanna hear
school
it.
tomorrow morning.
Yeah, this will interest you, Neil.
Good night, gentlemen.
Good night.
Good night, sir.
I guess we have Mr. Francisco here for a conceptual for Safely Store.
Pardon me.
They've decided to address there.
First of all, as you may be aware, I was not present for any of the safely sewer discussions. They were last on the agenda. I recused myself and went home. It did not turn on the TV. So I was not here in this building for any of the discussions. So I have since done a little research, talked to some owners, talked to some engineers, talked to some landscape architects, yabba dabba do. The green buildings are what's built. The blue buildings, he's planning on building. The pink area is paved. Just so you know where we're at. It was supposed to be phase 1 was supposed to be these 5. Phase 2 was supposed to be this. Phase 3 was supposed to be these 3 over here. The way the market is, he doesn't think these are gonna get built. These are 80% full. He's hoping to build these in the next year or 2. When he builds this one, obviously he'll pave this strip. When he builds this one, he'll pave that and get this all paved. So the plan approved got some RV storage here. I think it was like 6 or 7 spots. 6. Whoops. I did bring boxes, little ones. I didn't bring the whole set, there's 40 sheets, I brought 3 sheets I thought we were talking about. And the reason I'm here is we're hopefully the planning, but be resubmitting a site plan for outdoor storage in this area. Right.
Yes.
So the grade here, like I said, this is all paved, it all drains to this basin, it's back here. Some of this drains to this basin over here. I've been to this basin during 2 pretty heavy rain events, and the water coming out of this pipe. One time it was flowing about 4 inches deep, I bet the water was probably flowing 5 feet past the pipe, and it was disappearing in the ground. I looked at this pipe outlet, and the mulch that's in the bottom of the pond for the bioretention has not been moved at all with any rain. So the water is not getting to the mulch. Just FYI. There's a little bioretention basin proposed here that's not built yet. And they're not planning on building it. Because the only drainage area going here is the front of this building, about that big. And if that's not paved, the water's going in the ground. So we don't think we need this retention basin unless this is paved.
So he doesn't, so part of the,
This is all gonna be, we're proposing this all to be gravel.
so that wouldn't be paved either?
No.
What about the grade compared to what it is now?
This is probably about 4 feet higher
Mm-hmm.
than the gravel, the pavement is.
Is there, would he propose to lower that at all?
No. So it leaves the way it is.
Okay, and those parking spots that were originally shown over there, you haven't tucked those yet, I think there's still vegetation there probably, right?
There's still quite a bit of vegetation along the side here, because none of this is 4 feet higher, so this has not really been touched
Right.
along here.
Right, right.
There's quite a bit of existing vegetation, except to where the old Margot's driveway went up through there.
Driveway was, yeah.
And there's a little bit of stuff in here that's been cut out too. He's actually hoping to do a subdivision and sell this to a different user. That's the hope. But in the meantime, he wants to use it for RV storage and boat storage, etc. Obviously, we need a new site plan, all those kind of things, the butter notices, the event notice.
Would he do any more fence work, or is he
Are you doing more what?
fence work?
We've actually done more fence. He already put more fence up now than what he's supposed to put up. The fence goes all the way around to here.
Right.
And the reason that he put up more fence is two reasons. One, the Snowmobile Club was parking all over the place. They were driving this way to get to Lancaster.
Yeah.
And They drove over some of his landscaping last year, wiped out a forsythia and a couple evergreens. There's now some, looks like 2x2 stakes between the landscaping and the pavement to kind of keep the snow goes out of landscaping. That's the theory. But no, he's not planning any more fence. I told him, well, we'll get there. That's what we're hoping to do for a use. Last but not least is the landscaping plan. And you gentlemen, I believe, saw these. Sorry, I haven't got my color rendering. I have to go out and print these things. The various color renderings looking south, looking north, looking west. I don't think I have the exact number with me that he's planted, but he has planted I believe 8 fir trees in here. He did not use this table, I'll be blunt. He went out and bought trees for 2 reasons. If you look at the little sheet I gave you to begin with, the second page, you'll see an estimate from Ryan Fournier Landscaping. And the estimates for all the planting and everything except this little bio retention basin in the front. So that includes all this, these, everything except for inside this bio retention basin. Of almost $44,000. And this was a couple months after it was approved, so he did not get these prices prior to being approved. That's why he cut down and kind of did not pay attention to this. He didn't have $44,000 to spend on landscape to do, but I don't know how much he spent to date, so no idea. So we'd like to revise the landscaping to something less than this. I would assume the board's going to want more than what's there. That's my assumption. I would think we'd want some more in this area. There's a
Part of the problem is gonna be, if he doesn't wanna regrade that upper part and the park RVs up there, they stick out like a sore thumb. And if he wants to cut down on landscaping, so he wants to not lower the grade and cut down on landscaping, it's really gonna.
The whole purpose of the landscaping was to hide these buildings and to hide the activity. And that hasn't been done. Is there some other way to hide these buildings visually so you don't see them from the north or the south, or perhaps even the west, and do it in a way that doesn't cost $44,000?
Well, I'm going to say again, I wasn't here. So, looking at the zoning ordinance, that's by the 3rd page I gave you. In a commercial district, any new commercial activity shall provide for and maintain a strip of native plantings approved by the planning board along property lines and boundaries, including road frontage that may be required to act as a visual screen and or sound buffer as appropriate to the proposed development. The landscape plan shall be shown to provide for a visually appealing green space that softens the view. I don't really know if that says hide. Visual screen, soften the view?
A visual screen means that you can't see.
Yeah, soften the view doesn't mean make it visible.
No.
There's somewhere in between those two.
And I will admit, I got 2 hats on here, there's no doubt about that. At the same time, if you remember, about the same time this was being approved, Cold Springs display area up on the north side on the other side of 114 was approved with no landscaping. I was sitting for that. So
one error shouldn't be compounded by another.
It was the same week, same month.
For whatever reason. First of all, that was a pre-existing use. This is a brand new use. They had storage there for many years.
You're right, that was approved prior to that too.
Right.
Paul Moore was even chairman when it was first approved.
So
and then they came back.
This is a new and very different adventure.
Okay, I'll agree with that.
Figure out some way to put in plantings that, not in 20 years, but ASAP, will hide that whole thing. And maybe he can figure out a way to do it, not with these things, but with something else. For example, you mentioned forsythia. Forsythia or privet, they grow prodigiously. Privet hedge.
Yep.
They grow, it's very inexpensive, I think, and they grow quickly.
He has planted, I don't remember what kind of yew bushes they were now. I call them bushes, because my dad was a forester, and he always called yews bushes. I don't remember the name of the yew, but it's supposed to grow 10 feet high and 8 feet wide when it's mature. There's 4 of those down there. The spruce he has planted are the same thing. It should grow to be 10 feet wide.
But we'll be all...
And they're already 6 feet high or higher.
But they're not close enough together. There isn't a double row. So even when they reach maturity, they're not going to act as a visual screen.
They aren't going to block the entire view,
Right.
correct.
So I think there may be a less expensive alternative with a hedge rather than trees. Now, whether that's native plantings, I don't know. Forsythia probably is. I'm not sure that privet is.
Well, forsythia's going to lose its leaves. And
That's true. And so does privet. Well, privet tends to keep the leaves in the fall.
can't remember what a privet is, to be honest with you.
But
Okay.
there may be hedges that work.
Yes.
As opposed to trees, and it may be much less money, and it may solve the problem more quickly.
So part of the problem, I believe, to the expense of these things, if you look at this list, right off the bat, there's 3 right up. I'm not worried about the number, but the size of a 2-inch caliper. That's a pretty good sized tree. Doesn't look that big right now. The root ball is huge.
Mm-hmm.
That's the cost that I'm talking about. You're not going to pick up a 2-inch oak tree and walk over there, put it down, dig a hole, put it, plant it.
But some of these hedges you can.
I know, but that's what I mean. That's part of the problem is the size of this oak tree. You'll see that the oak tree, there's a honey lug with a 2.5 calipers. A lot of these things have 2-inch calipers on them. That's a big tree with a huge root ball. You're talking about backhoes and all kind of expense to plant a tree. And I agree. Okay.
And just
What do we do about parking RVs on the hill?
Standing here right now, I don't know. How's that for an answer?
You understand what I'm thinking?
You're thinking dig it back down the 4 feet, probably back about. The only problem is, there's 2 things. He could, obviously, take this material back, store it up here.
How about making a berm with it, and using that for some?
You can't do it down here.
No, but at the edge of, like the ends, the gable ends of where the buildings were proposed.
Over here?
Yeah.
That's pretty well screened already, isn't it?
yes.
Except for the driveway. And then a little bit up in here.
You know, if you could, like, make a berm with the gravel there, and make it, that would help them with all the landscaping out there. So you wouldn't need that stuff up there.
You mean take the gravel and literally put it all, make a berm with it all along 114? Along
Like
the
where the
entire,
end of the buildings are, like,
Right there.
like in here.
but why not over here too?
Here, you can't do it there, there's not enough room. He hasn't got enough room to do that there.
You don't want to tear all that up and redo it.
No. But if he could do it like from where this retention pond was, up through here, and use the material here to do the berm with. I mean, you know, make it a pretty good berm.
Can you put plantings on a berm of gravel?
If you wouldn't need to do much more than grass up there if you had the berm good. Because you're gonna help, on the other side, you're gonna lower the grade, then you're gonna use the berm.
Well, I know one time somebody mentioned, not tonight, not last year, if this berm was much higher, it would be difficult for anything to grow on.
Well, the problem was that it needs to be wide, as you go higher, it needs to be wide, they didn't have the width to make it wider, so that was about as high as it could go.
Andy was taking the well from Margot's house is still there.
Yeah.
He was hooking a generator up to pump water out of the well to water these, to irrigate this plantings 3 times a week. So even with a wet summer, he did it 3 times a week.
Yeah.
So they should be established.
Almost established.
Yeah, like we've said several times, it takes a year just for the roots to get acclimated, whatever the word I want is. Well, they are now, so they should be growing like crazy next year. Because most of those yews and firs are when they planted the year, last year. I think Andy and I'll got to take a walk. Andy Morris, maybe Frank, both of us. See what we can do here. And see what we want to do, see what he can add there. Most of those bushes that are planted, mature height is about 8 to 10 feet though. I know they aren't mature.
How long does it take for them to reach maturity?
I don't know, I'm a land surveyor. I will find out. I will try to find out. How's that?
There you go.
So how much landscaping does the board want? You want the buildings to be almost...
Ideally invisible.
Well, that's a little excessive. It's not what the ordinance requires.
A visual screen.
A visual screen doesn't mean invisible. Screen, you can still get air through a screen.
Air.
You can see through a screen.
Yeah.
Okay.
The landscape plan shall be shown to provide a visually appealing green space that softens the view. I will do that and try to do a little better. How's that?
Okay.
Thank you.
Since we don't have a quorum, Mr. Chairman, let's adjourn.
Are we going? Declaring us adjourned.
At 10:30.
Aaron did it by declaration, how's that?
I like that. About time somebody used his power.